Chapter 742. Young Master, you can do it, right? My heavenly poison body won't be burned. Phoenix Rouge threw herself into Ling Zhao's arms. There was no trace of shyness on her face. Instead, there was a trace of expectation. Rouge, it's not good to do it in broad daylight. Ling Zhao smiled bitterly. He didn't expect this heavenly poison woman to take the initiative to this extent. They were still in a desperate situation, but she already couldn't control herself? In broad daylight? That's right. It's broad daylight. Phoenix Rouge smiled and suddenly leaned over to kiss Ling Zhao's lips. Their eyes met and the flames danced. At this moment, everything in the world was empty. Boom! The nine heavens obsidian flame couldn't compare to the residual warmth between their lips. Ling Zhao's starry robe instantly dissipated. He hugged Phoenix Rouge tightly in his arms. At the peak of the barren mountain, waves of flames surged. However, inexplicably, countless cultivators at the foot of the mountain gradually frowned. The entire barren mountain was enveloped by a formation. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any mountain wind. But why did the flames in the mountain feel like they were swaying with the wind? Why were they swaying? Young Master, I'll teach you. Yes, just like this. What cultivation technique are you cultivating? Young Master, are you tired? Don't rest. Come, I have some medicinal pills to recover your spiritual energy. Young Master, for 7 days, the flames in the mountain didn't extinguish and the mountain wind didn't stop. Finally, when the starry flames in the sky gradually extinguished, the entire barren mountain was burned into nothingness by the nine heavens' spirit flame. But in the ashes, there seemed to be a black flame that was still burning fiercely. The power it emitted was even more terrifying than the heavenly meteorite star flame. The world was deathly silent. Suddenly, a lazy groan came from the black flame. Everyone's expression instantly turned sluggish. What the F***? This voice didn't sound like it was in pain. Only when the black flames gradually dissipated did two figures appear before everyone's eyes. One of them was a handsome young man in a white robe. He had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, and he had an immortal aura. As for the other one, she was a young girl who was dressed strangely. Her face was as beautiful as a painting, and her face was rosy, especially that pair of bright eyes that were like stars. They even revealed a charming smile. At this moment, the two of them were standing side by side. It could be said that they were a match made in heaven. Is that the sky poison lady? It seems like he didn't burn to death. I told you to burn it for 49 days. It's only been 7 days. How can it kill her? Countless cultivators were shocked. Spiritual light flickered around their bodies, and they were ready to attack. Young man, who are you? How dare you meddle in the affairs of my sky border city? Above the void, the 4 sky border city elders frowned. Their eyes were filled with shock and fear. The heavenly meteor flame was Sky Border City's inherited treasure. Even the sea tribes, emperor gods who had cultivated for hundreds of years wouldn't be able to withstand the power, let alone the 2 youths. But why didn't he die? Her face was flushed red, and she looked very happy. This is the sky poison evil body so terrifying? How dare a motley crew of 5 elements and 8 elements call themselves the strongest demon sect in the sea? Ling Zhao shook his head and smiled. Suddenly, a demonic blade appeared in his hand. He then gently slashed at the Sky Border City elder who had opened his mouth. Buzz! The sound of a blade suddenly resounded between heaven and earth. A strand of black light flickered. After that, everyone watched in horror as the entire expanse of space actually collapsed layer by layer. The black light seemed to contain layers of Tao law order. It destroyed the ancient times and pierced through the blue universe. The Sky Border City elder's face turned solemn. Suddenly, a dazzling divine light shot up into the sky. However, before he could attack to stop it, the space in front of him seemed to have stopped for a moment. By the time he reacted, the blade light had already flashed past his neck. A chill rose from the bottom of his heart. Then, The elder of Sky Border City was dumbfounded as he watched his body fall down from the sky. Hiss! Hiss! At the foot of the barren mountain, a series of gasps could be heard. Everyone looked at the God Emperor Elder who had been beheaded in an instant. There was nothing but shock in their eyes. Although the four elders in front of them had held on for 7 days, using their spiritual power to form an array. Their auras had already withered to the extreme. But looking at the young man's appearance, he was at most 18 or 19 years old. Killing a God Emperor with one slash? Is this something a human can do? Go back and tell your city lord to gather the experts of Sky Border City and wait for me to slaughter them. Ling Xiao looked up at the 3 people above him. His tone was extremely indifferent. Beside him, Phoenix Rouge's lips curled into a beautiful smile. She reached out and grabbed Ling Xiao's arm. Then she pressed her face against him and made a face at the 3 people. Ha ha! You, arrogant young man, you dare to protect the Sky Poison evil body. You will become the enemy of the entire sea. The 3 elders looked at each other. Their expressions were extremely gloomy. However, at this time, the 3 of them were flickering with spiritual light. They were quite wary of Ling Xiao. Sky Poison evil body? Which eye of yours saw that she has the Sky Poison evil body? Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. He reached out and grabbed Feng Rouge's hand. Then, he waved it gently at the crowd. Huh. This. The shock and anger on the crowd's faces suddenly froze. That's not right. This young man is holding the Sky Poison lady's hand? Wasn't it said that this poison was an eternal taboo, and that any living creature that came into contact with it would turn into a pool of blood and bones? Why is that young man fine? Could it be that we made a mistake? Phoenix Rouge isn't the Sky Poison evil body at all? Had she been framed? To be honest, even the 3 God Emperors of Sky Border City were a little confused. This young girl is exactly the same as the Sky Poison lady in the portrait. How could there be such a coincidence in this world? Besides, if you aren't the Sky Poison lady, why did you run around these few days? If you don't believe me, you can verify it yourself. Ling Xiao gave the Phoenix Rouge a look. The latter immediately understood. She gently reached out her 2 hands and formed 2 palm prints. Then, she pressed them toward the 2 people in the void. If it was in the past, it would be impossible for the Phoenix Rouge to break the spiritual defense of the God Emperors with her strength. However, at this time, the 2 God Emperors of Sky Border City frowned slightly. They seemed to be at a loss. In the end, they unexpectedly reached out their hands and touched the spiritual seals of the Phoenix Rouge. Poochie. As expected, the 2 God Emperors' palms instantly rotted and turned into blood that sprinkled down from the sky. Gulp! The entire barren mountain was dead silent. Everyone looked at the 2 God Emperors whose expressions gradually turned from dull to ferocious. There was only fear in their eyes. Chapter 743. Gulp! The 2 Sky Border City God Emperors swallowed their saliva, and their eyes flashed with anger. Then, before the 2 of them could react, an ancient sword suddenly appeared in the hands of the remaining Emperor God Expert, and he slashed at the 2 of them. The Sky Poison was a poison that had no antidote in the world. Even with the physical body of a God Emperor, if he did not use his spiritual energy to resist it, he would not be able to resist it. The only way was to cut off the contaminated areas before it spread out. Brat, who are you? The 3 God Emperors looked ferocious, but they looked at Ling Xiao with fear. This young man had a celestial aura and was otherworldly. Why didn't he do anything related to humans at all? Phoenix Rouge's palms were obviously mixed with the Sky Poison. However, no one expected that there would be a young man who could resist the Sky Poison. If Ling Xiao had not given them the wrong impression, they would not have been able to resist the Sky Poison with their bare hands. It doesn't matter who I am. You accuse my woman of having the Sky Poison body. If Sky Border City does not give me an explanation, I will destroy your entire city. Ling Xiao smiled. He held Phoenix Rouge's hand and walked toward the foot of the mountain. What? Accuse? Everyone's expression froze, and then it turned into a wisp of dense rage. Accuse? Didn't you just prove to everyone how terrifying the sky poison was? Wait, he was arrogant. This young man was extremely arrogant. How dare he accuse a deer of being a horse in front of everyone, killing with poison and saying it was not poison? However, Phoenix Rouge's eyes flashed with a smile. Had the saint of the sacred sect turned evil? How could he be so cruel and overbearing? However, compared to the benevolence, righteousness, and morality that he spoke of before, the current him seemed to be even more charming. He was cold and arrogant. He was an enemy of the world. However, he was doing it for her. Young master, Rouge is willing to accompany you to fight against the immortals of the nine heavens. After 20 years, Phoenix Rouge finally understood why the children of destiny like to show off and slap people in the face. It turned out that this feeling was addictive. What? I'm the villain, so I won't act cool. Watching my man act tough is also a kind of enjoyment. Veep, the daughter of destiny's Tao heart, has turned dark and has the potential to become a villain. Congratulations. Host has received 1,000 luck points and 10,000 villain points. Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows and turned to face the Phoenix Rouge with a gentle smile. These demons are wreaking havoc in the world. Kill them all. Yes. The Phoenix Rouge smiled brightly. Suddenly, an evil dark green light shot up into the sky from its body. It turned into a cloud of mist and enveloped the people at the foot of the mountain. Kill those two as well. Leave one to go back and report. Ling Xiao raised his head and looked at the three emperor gods as he spoke calmly. Yes, my lord. Suddenly, a glaring saber radiance bloomed in the void. Then, a fat white figure stepped on the sky and slashed down with his saber. The world seemed to have come to a standstill at this moment. The three emperor gods of Sky Border City felt an extremely mysterious Tao rhyme descend from the sky and envelop the three of them. In the next instant, the young man who was originally in the sky suddenly appeared about 10 feet in front of them. In his hand, the saber pierced through the sky and slashed down. The Time Tao Law was the most mystical of the 3,000 great Taos. Moreover, Xiao Biao was the mandate of destiny. Killing enemies across realms was nothing out of the ordinary for him. Even if the three emperor gods joined forces, they were still suppressed by Xiao Biao because they had expended too much energy earlier. Ling Xiao did not look at them again. He held the Phoenix Rouge's hand and walked towards Sky Border City in the distance. On the way here, Ling Xiao had already gained some understanding of this force from Folded Shadow. At first, Sky Border City was a trade center in the deepest part of the sea. Later, because it was remote and far away from the human forces, it was gradually controlled by some demons who escaped here. However, this was the land of the Sea Tribe after all. The human race was weak and often humiliated. It was not until the Lord of Sky Border City held the Divine Cauldron and slaughtered the 3 sea tribes around Sky Border Island that this force became famous in the sea. At first, Ling Xiao did not know that the Lord of Sky Border City had a heaven and earth spirit fire. Moreover, looking at its power, although it was not as powerful as the Emperor Flame and Demon Fire in his hands, it was extremely terrifying. Young Master, there are many experts in Sky Border City, especially the Lord of Sky Border City. It is said that his cultivation is close to the 8th grade. At the foot of the barren mountain, the poisonous fog dispersed. As for the rotten fish and shrimps that chased after the Phoenix Rouge, not even their bones were left. They were reduced to a pool of blood on the ground. Although the Phoenix Rouge's current strength was only at the divine overlord realm, the heavenly poison body was called a taboo. Its power was imaginable. Of course, even if there were some fish that escaped the net, they were all killed by the secret guards that Ling Xiao had arranged in the distance. Peak of the 7th grade, Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Not to mention that the Lord of Sky Border City had not reached the 8th grade. Even if he was an 8th grade divine emperor, Ling Xiao could trap and kill him with his current strength. Not to mention the 8th grade, even a 9th grade will die if he dares to hurt you. Young Master, Phoenix Rouge's beautiful eyes trembled slightly. The corner of her mouth became wider and wider. She stuck close to Ling Xiao and said, "Tonight, I will give you a surprise." "Oh, what kind of surprise?" Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly and turned to look at Phoenix Rouge. However, he saw her smile mysteriously and said, "Anyway, it is something that you have never seen before. Rouge, when I was in the Immortal Mystic sect that day, I saw that the mulberry tree and fish pond that you set up was quite interesting. How about this? I will help you take care of a force." Take care of a force. That's right. With your current identity, it is best that you do not expose it easily. I will send you to a place where no one will disturb you. Among them are some of my loyal subordinates. Ling Xiao sighed and looked at Phoenix Rouge with a complicated expression. The current me will definitely be viewed as an enemy by the southern border's righteous path. The first divine envoy is still here. I need to secretly accumulate strength and see if I can. Young master, I understand. Just focus on your own matters. I will take care of the forces for you. Phoenix Rouge clenched her silver teeth and nodded slightly. With this destined woman's thoughts, if he handed over the various forces in the realm to her, it would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. In other words, she would definitely be able to bring out the greatest value of all the tools and make the best use of them. It was not that Ling Xiao could not do it. However, he still needed to travel the world and harvest leeks. It was definitely impossible for him to stay in the realm all day long. As a transmigrator, Phoenix Rouge naturally had many wonderful ideas in her head. What Ling Xiao wanted to do was to give her a stage and let her shine. A good-looking person was all the same, but an interesting soul was one in a million. To be honest, Ling Xiao was quite looking forward to this transmigrator. What kind of surprise would she bring to him in this strange world? "My lord, it is all settled." Just as Ling Xiao was silently muttering to himself, Xiao Po's figure suddenly descended from the sky. He looked at Phoenix Rouge with a slightly surprised expression. "Greetings, mistress." "HM." Phoenix Rouge's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly, and the corner of her mouth lifted into a beautiful arc. "Your guard is not bad." Chapter 744. Thank you for your compliment, mistress. I am willing to do my best for you until my death. Xiao Po bowed, his expression extremely respectful. Although he did not experience the sky poison that Phoenix Rouge used, he saw it from afar. Anyone who came into contact with it, be it divine overlords or divine kings, turned into a pool of blood in the blink of an eye. Although the two sky border city emperor gods managed to keep their lives, their arms were crippled. It was obvious that this woman was extremely dangerous. She was even more dangerous than Yi Qingchuan. However, it seemed that his lord was the Real Ocean King. Not to mention Han Qing Xiu, Lin Meng, and the others in the realm, it seemed that any woman that he took a fancy to could not escape from him. He was even immune to the sky poison. Hiss! What was there to say? His lord was awesome. Let's go and meet the sky border city lord. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. He held Phoenix Rouge's hand and walked towards Sky Border City. "Young master, I have a few playthings that might come in handy later." Phoenix Rouge smiled charmingly. She suddenly took out 2 silver pearls from her Qian Kuan ring. They were the size of a fist and shiny. "Oh!" Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows. Phoenix Rouge explained softly. "These pearls are made of uranium silver. They do not have a high melting point, but they can temporarily seal the sky poison. There are 2 fire attribute spiritual stones in them. Once they collide, they will explode. Of course, these pearls also contain the sky poison that I personally made." Hearing this, Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes, but a smile appeared on his face. Wasn't this a smokescreen? The kind that could kill without leaving a trace. From the beginning, Ling Xiao did not plan to take Phoenix Rouge's life. The reason was because of this. Time travel and imagination were not something the Xuanhuan realm natives could compare to. As long as she put her mind to it, she could create many new toys. To Ling Xiao, it was a spice in his boring life. "I'm just a writer. Other than writing, I don't know anything else." Since Phoenix Rouge could set up mulberry fields and fish ponds, it was obvious that they were cultured. What was this saying again? You're not afraid of villains being bad. You're only afraid of villains being handsome. No, You're only afraid of villains being cultured. That's right. Rouge, you're such a clever girl. Ling Xiao reached out his hand, took the two sky poison pearls into his palm, and lightly pinched the Phoenix Rouge's nose. Young master, actually, I still have a lot of these sneaky things with me. Phoenix Rouge's eyes flashed with a sinister glint. She had originally created these things to save her life. After all, as a villain, despicable means were at their fingertips. However, whether it was the sky poison pearl or other concealed weapons, they were all more or less contaminated with the sky poison and had the risk of being exposed. Therefore, under normal circumstances, the Phoenix Rouge would not dare to use it. However, today was different from the past. Now that she was by Ling Xiao's side, she only needed to create concealed weapons and let this destined person use them. She did not need to worry too much. The heavenly mandate could kill the heavenly mandate. As a villain, she would naturally be the woman behind the heavenly mandate and help him kill all his enemies, becoming the only one in history. This way, who would dare to say that I have an evil body? Humph, we villains don't want to be a stepping stone. Good. Rouge, if you need any spiritual materials in the future, just tell me. Whatever you want to do, don't worry and boldly do it. Also, this sky poison pearl can be further improved. For example, its appearance can be made into a spiritual pearl artifact. Ling Xiao nodded, his eyes revealing a sinister glint. Although concealed weapons were despicable and vulgar, but F***CK. I'm a villain. You expect me to be honorable? If this sky poison was used properly, it would be a supreme weapon for sneaky people. Young master is wise. Phoenix Rouge's pretty face froze. She quickly understood Ling Xiao's thoughts, and her beautiful eyes also bloomed with craftiness. Then, she took out 3 sky poison pearls from her universe ring and handed them to Ling Xiao. Only then did the two of them walk towards Sky Edge City with bright faces. Finally, I can kill people openly. Heavens, since you asked me to transmigrate into a villain's body, then I will properly prove the villain's name. Sky Poison Lady? In the future, please call me Sky Poison Fairy. Beep, the destined person has abandoned herself and firmly believes in her villain setting. She has completely darkened. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. At the same time, Sky Edge City, in a greenstone ancient hall in the center of the city. A black-robed elder looked down at the Sky Edge City elder with a sinister expression. Beside him, Mo Wu Dao's brows were slightly furrowed. Clearly, he was also puzzled. Elder Yin Zhu, you're saying that a youth not only withstood the heavenly meteor star flame, but also saved the Sky Poison Lady and killed the other 2 God Emperor elders of our Horizon City. That's right. Great Elder, City Lord. The young man said that he wants Sky Edge City to give him an explanation, otherwise, he will destroy our entire city. Yin Zhu was the God Emperor of Sky Edge City that Ling Xiao had purposely let back to inform him. This force had occupied Sky Edge Island for hundreds of years, so their foundation should not be too weak. Moreover, Ling Xiao was about to enter the ancestral land of the heavenly crocodile with Yijan. If he could control a few more God Emperor puppets when they encounter danger, he could have one more scapegoat. What? How arrogant. Do you know that young man's background? Mo Wu Dao and the City Lord of Sky Edge City looked at each other with a solemn look in their eyes. The two of them were both 7th-grade God Emperors. In the entire sea region, other than the Flood Dragon humanoid race and a few thousand-years-old royal clans who could suppress the two of them, even the ordinary royal clans wouldn't dare to speak so arrogantly. Moreover, now that the immortal mystic sect had been destroyed, although there were many human forces, there were not many that could go against Sky Edge City. Where did this young man come from? How dare he say that he would destroy Sky Edge City? Wait, young man? Kill God Emperors? Human race? Arrogant? Could it be that he was the saint of the saint who was rumored to be coming to southern border? But it should not be. How could the saint of the saint protect the heavenly poison evil woman? One had to know that the heavenly poison body was a forbidden body. Although it was not as forbidden as the sky demon body It was still an existence that could not be tolerated in the world. But if he was not the saint, the city lord of Sky Edge City could not think of any other young man in Southern Border who had such confidence. Could it be that he was just using this as an excuse to destroy the demonic sects in the sea region? If he is really the person I think he is, there is a ninth stage God Emperor behind him. It is more than enough for him to destroy Sky Edge City. The city lord of Sky Edge City sighed softly and looked up at Mo Wudao. Great Elder, call back all the disciples and elders of Sky Edge City and activate the protective array. I want to see who this young man is. Yes, City Lord. Mo Wudao bowed respectfully, and his figure instantly disappeared. Instantly, the entire Sky Edge Island fell into chaos. Streams of light flashed across the void and gathered at the center of the city from all directions. In the ancient city, Ling Xiao held Phoenix Rouge's hand while the latter was eating a stick of candied haws. They walked leisurely towards the city lord's residence. Young master, what do you plan to do later? What are we? We are demons. Of course, we have to be ruthless and heartless. Hee. Young master, you are so naughty. I really like it. I hope that young master can treat me worse in the future. Chapter 745. Is everyone here? The Sky Border City Lord's name was Duan Tianya, and he was a famous demon sect expert in Southern Border. He came from the Gone Heaven Divine sect along with Gu Zhun and Hua Yoji. Back then, the Saint sect and the Immortal Mystic sect had joined hands to kill the remaining demon sect members. Duan Tianya led a group of disciples to hide in the depths of the sea and never appeared again. However, that was a grudge from 100 years ago. Now, Duan Tianya was living a carefree and happy life in Sky Border Island. Later, if the person who came was really the saint of the Saint sect, he decided he would try his best not to make a move. Wouldn't it be better for everyone to mind their own business and live a carefree and happy life? As for why the saint is protecting the Sky Poison Lady, it has nothing to do with me. As long as she doesn't poison me, she can poison whoever she wants. If not for someone purposely stirring up trouble in Sky Border City these few days, why would I have to kill evil and bring about such a disaster? City Lord, Sky Border City's 7 Great Elders. Oh, it's 5 Great Elders now. The 300 disciples are all here and waiting outside the palace. Mo Wudao cupped his hands with a solemn expression. He had already guessed the identity of that young man. Moreover, the Saint sect and the Demon sect were mortal enemies. The actions of the Saint sect's saint were somewhat thought-provoking. Could it be that he wanted to use the Sky Poison Lady as an excuse to kill the remaining evil in Sky Border City? In other words, this saint didn't want to save the Sky Poison Lady. Perhaps he was just using her temporarily to kill her after Sky Border City was destroyed. In this way, all the evil demons would die in his hands. Where would the young man's saint name come from? Yes, open the palace protection array and guard the palace. Without my orders, no one is allowed to speak. I want to have a good talk with this mysterious young man. The Sky Border City Lord nodded calmly with a myriad of thoughts in his mind. Why didn't he deliberately express his cowardly attitude? Buzz. An ear-piercing buzzing sound reverberated through the sky. All of a sudden, a golden, ancient formation descended from the sky above the palace. Tao patterns seemed to appear on it, shining brightly and revealing an indestructible feeling. But just as the ancient array descended and covered the sky, a few crisp sounds suddenly came from a corner outside the palace. Dang, 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 dang. 5 silver-white beads jumped out from the crack in the door and rolled in 5 different directions. At this moment, Sky Border City's 5 Great Elders and 300 disciples had a doubtful expression on their faces. What the hell is this? How would they break the array and roll in? She seemed to be quite pretty. Immediately, all the elders and disciples gathered around and looked down at the 5 silver beads. In the next moment, a red light suddenly circulated on the surface of the silver bead. In a short period of time, it melted into a pool of silver liquid. Immediately after, A wisp of dense fog drifted out, gradually surging like a tide, instantly enveloping the entire square outside the hall. This is a... Suddenly, a disciple with a lower cultivation base began to scream miserably and turned into a pool of blood. In the blink of an eye, the entire city lord's mansion that was enveloped by the ancient formation turned into a sea of poisonous fog. The 300 disciples didn't even have the time to struggle before they died mysteriously. Even the God King elders collapsed to the ground and vomited blood from the corrosion of the poisonous mist. They had lost their lives. Enemy attack. Enemy attack. F*CK. It's the sky poison. It's the sky poison, ah. Finally, some God Emperor experts began to react. Spiritual light shot out from their bodies, blocking the green sky, poison a few feet in front of them. But there were still a few unlucky God Emperor experts who were caught off guard and were infected by the poisonous mist, their bodies festering. Even some elders who were fourth-grade God Emperors were shocked to discover that the poisonous fog was corroding their spiritual energy. The power of the sky poison was actually so terrifying. What happened? In the main hall, the Sky Border City Lord and Mo Wu Dao's expressions changed as they hurried out of the main hall. However, the 300 disciples and dozens of elders were nowhere to be seen. What was left was a pool of blood and a few God Emperor experts who were struggling bitterly. F*CK me? I was still preparing to negotiate with the enemy. How did the entire sect get wiped out in the blink of an eye? I'm very confused. Shouldn't the holy son of the Saints sect be righteous? Why didn't he act according to common sense? Shouldn't he announce his identity first and give me some shock before we discuss terms and conditions to resolve the conflict? City Lord, it seems to be the sky poison. Mo Wu Dao's eyes narrowed as he felt a chill in his heart. Originally, he thought that with the protection of the array and the support of so many experts, even if the young man was mysterious and had a terrifying background, he wouldn't dare to be too presumptuous. But now, it seemed like he was about to be controlled. Outside the hall, Ling Xiao raised his head to look at the sky poison mist that soared into the sky, and the corners of his mouth raised into a smile. As expected of a forbidden physique, she didn't even need to make a move to kill a sect. Right now, Phoenix Rouge's cultivation was still at the divine overlord realm. When she became a God Emperor, she would probably be invincible in this realm. It seemed like it was a wise decision to take her in. Otherwise, when she found out that she was actually the heavenly mandate body, who in this world would be able to control her? Forbidden physique? Buffed. The law of the immortal path was the law of the jungle. But if one was too strong, they would be seen as not tolerated by the world. At the end of the day, there were still people who didn't want to see stronger living beings appear. Rouge, this poisonous fog won't spread out and poison the entire Horizon Island, will it? Ling Xiao frowned. With his sky demon body, he wasn't afraid of the sky poison, but there were still countless living beings on the island. Once the sky poison spread, they would most likely die on the spot. Now that the first divine envoy was still in the sea, if it was too tragic, it would inevitably attract this righteous light and disrupt his entire plan. The sky poison in this sky poison pearl can only last for 10 breaths of time. Young master, if you need it, I can increase the dosage in the future. When Phoenix Rouge created this sky poison pearl, it was to protect her life. So she carefully controlled the sky poison in it. Otherwise, if it caused too much of a commotion, it would be hard to avoid being targeted. She was a villain. Before doing anything, she naturally had to consider the consequences and weigh the pros and cons. But it was different now. With Ling Xiao in front of her, she didn't have to worry too much. Oh, that won't be necessary for now. Ling Xiao nodded and finally walked toward the city lord's main hall. The so-called protective array of the sect naturally didn't pose any threat to him. Once the boundary-breaking talisman was used, what array in the lower realm couldn't be broken? When the two of them appeared in the square, looking at the Sky Border City's disciples who had been poisoned to death, even Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with surprise. Damn, it was too terrifying. Fortunately, he was a sky demon. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know how he died, especially when Phoenix Rouge hid behind the scenes and schemed step by step. If it were anyone else, grass would have grown on their grave by now. Sky Poison Lady. The fog gradually dispersed. Duan Wuya and the others looked at the two people who walked out of the fog, and their eyes hardened. As expected, this young man actually had a way to resist the sky poison. Sky Border City Lord, please be careful with your words. Who is the Sky Poison Lady? Ling Xiao smiled gently and stepped on the blood-filled ground in front of everyone. At this moment, there was no change in his expression. What taboo physique! It was not tolerated by the world. In this immortal path, as long as you were strong enough to crush heaven and earth, people would only revere you and not dare to act rashly. Chapter 746. Careful with my words. The Sky Border City Lord's mouth was slightly agape. As a rank 7 Great Emperor, he was actually flustered in front of this white-robed young man. This was especially so when he saw the warm expression on Ling Xiao's face, which made his hair stand on end. He was clearly a young man, an ant. But standing in front of him, Duan Wuya felt like he was being controlled. It was as if he could decide everyone's life and death at any time. This feeling had nothing to do with cultivation. It was an innate aura. But, F*CK, you used the sky poison to kill all the disciples of my Sky Border City. You're telling me you're not the Sky Poison Lady? Am I blind? Or are you too domineering? Also, how did this young man break through my Sky Border City's protective array and come here? This is not giving me any room to bargain. Haha. May I know which sect young master is from? Do you have any old grudges with my Sky Border City? But, in the end, Duan Wuya was already worried. What did the death of his disciples have to do with him? He was originally from the demon sect and believed in the teachings of the demon sect. The life and death of others did not matter. As long as I'm not dead, Sky Border City will not be destroyed. Your Sky Border City framed my woman as the Sky Poison Lady. Isn't this enmity enough? Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. His eyes were clear. Currently, there were less than 10 experts left in Sky Border City. Other than the Sky Border City Lord, only Mo Wu Dao was a rank 7 Great Emperor. The remaining people were mostly rank 2 or 3 Great Emperors. They could be killed easily. This, young master, is there a misunderstanding? Duan Wuya gritted his teeth. I've lived for so long and have never seen such an arrogant person. Are you trying to distort the truth? But that was just that. Duan Wuya did not dare to show any arrogance. There was no choice. The situation was stronger than the person. Since the other party dared to kill his way to Sky Border City, this young man was not a fool, right? Then he must have something to rely on. I'm very angry. So, I'll give you 2 options. Kill yourself or kneel down and submit. Ling Xiao's expression turned cold. Duan Wuya and the rest's expression turned gloomy. In your dreams, I don't dare to provoke you, but if I want to leave, what can you do to me? It seems that the city lord has made his choice. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently as soul light overflowed from his eyes. Following that, an ancient diagram suddenly unfurled above his head. Within it, there seemed to be mountains and rivers shaking and a golden sun rising. It transformed into a prison of heaven and earth and suppressed all living beings within. It was the Mountain Sea Monarch portrait that Ling Xiao had seized from the great Zhou's old ancestor. What are you trying to do? Young man, I advise you not to be impulsive. City Lord, why bother wasting words with him? I don't believe that a young man like him can kill us. Beside Ling Xiao, the great elder of Sky Border City, Mo Wu Dao, suddenly gritted his teeth and slashed at Ling Xiao with his immortal sword. Seeing this, Duan Wuya's eyes narrowed and he sighed in his heart. It's over. It seemed that no matter what choice he made today, this young man would not let him go. But you've all seen it. Mo Wu Dao was the one who killed him. It had nothing to do with him. I wanted to stop him, but I didn't make it in time. Great Elder! Buzz! The ear-piercing sound of a sword suddenly resounded in the sky. Everyone could only see a ray of clear light blossoming leisurely slashing a terrifying crack in the void. In fact, even Phoenix Rouge could not react at this time. She only saw Mo Wu Dao's immortal sword about 10 feet above Ling Zhao's head. Gulp. To be honest, Phoenix Rouge was a little flustered. Although she had seen Ling Zhao's overwhelming strength, this Mo Wu Dao was a peak 7th stage God Emperor expert. Even in the Sea region, he was famous for his fighting prowess. Moreover, this sword was too sudden. Even a young master could not react in time, right? Otherwise, why would he still be standing there without moving? Damn it, it felt like he was going to die. No, the young master was the destined person. He most likely would not die. But this sword light shrouded the sky. It was a group attack, F*CK. So in the end, the one who will die is still me? Clang. But, just as the golden talisman in Phoenix Rouge's hand lit up, and she was about to dodge, she heard the sound of metal colliding. After that, a tall figure suddenly tore through the air in front of Ling Xiao and stood towering in front of the two of them, completely blocking the monstrous sword light. In fact, at this time, that figure only raised a single hand, and the sword that shattered the void was caught in his hand. Rouge, what are you doing? Ling Xiao turned his head and looked at Phoenix Rouge with a warm smile, only to see her hiding her hands in her sleeves in a panic, and her expression was a little awkward. I said before, with me around, no one can hurt you. Young master, I'm sorry. Phoenix Rouge lowered her head, guilt and fear between her brows. Young master, are you going to say that I don't believe him again? Kill. Ling Xiao smiled faintly as he raised his head to look at the dazed Mo Wu Dao in midair. His voice was cold as he said one word. Ha ha ha, master, it's just an old dog. There's no need for others to act. Leave it to me. But just as Xiong Huan clenched his fist and crushed Mo Wu Dao's ancient sword, behind Ling Xiao, a cold and arrogant laugh suddenly sounded. Then, Xiao Ping stepped out, and the blade in his hand fell directly on Mo Wu Dao's head. Boom! The sea of blade, qi, turned into a tide, and a huge crack appeared in the void. At the same time, Mo Wu Dao felt the scene in front of him freeze for a moment, and when he looked again, Xiao Ping was already 10 feet away from him. At this moment, Mo Wu Dao's heart trembled, and he hurriedly took out an ancient bronze cauldron to block in front of him. Clang! The ancient cauldron trembled, and a loud sound rang in everyone's ears. The sound of the Tao reverberated for thousands of miles. At this moment, all the cultivators in Sky Border City raised their heads and looked in the direction of the City Lord's Hall. A green cauldron expanded with the wind and finally became 1,000 feet in size. There seemed to be waves surging inside, and rumbling sounds could be heard. Xiao Ping's eyes narrowed, especially when he felt the terrifying heat that was about to pour out of the cauldron. A look of determination appeared on his fat face, and he turned to look at Xiong Huan. Oomph! I didn't expect this old man to be so capable. Big brother, I'll give you a chance now. Kill this old dog with me. At this moment, how could he not feel the surging spirit fire in the cauldron? Once Mo Wu Dao flipped it over, he would be the first to bear the brunt of the sea of fire and be roasted alive. But in front of Master, of course I have to maintain my invincible demeanor. Thus, although Xiao Ping was panicking, his expression was extremely indifferent. Seeing this, Ling Zhao's lips curled into a smile. He took a step forward and appeared above the cauldron. Heavenly meteorite flame, the spirit fire of heaven and earth. Such a ferocious thing could be said to be a calamity to ordinary people. But to Ling Xiao, it was just an ordinary method. He stretched out his hand and turned it into a huge palm. Before the starfire could pour out, he actually captured it from the cauldron. Chapter 747. Gulp. The entire City Lord Hall suddenly fell into a dead silence. Everyone looked at the white-robed youth in shock, as well as the heavenly meteorite star flame that was originally ferocious but was now casually held in his hand. Was he hallucinating? An elder of Sky Border City slapped himself hard. After confirming that it was not a hallucination, he swallowed his saliva. Previously, Duan Weya was able to gain a foothold in this sea region because he had used this flame to annihilate the surrounding sea tribes. Even some of the top experts in the sea region did not dare to provoke him. The reason was because of this heaven and earth spirit flame. Not to mention physical contact, even spirit treasures and Tao artifacts would not be able to withstand the power of this flame. But now, such a peerless and ferocious creature was actually held in the hands of a young man out of nowhere. F***CK. Duan Weya's eyes trembled, and his mouth opened wide in anger. Is it because I have not been in the world for a long time that I can no longer keep up with the trends of this era? Are the children nowadays so awesome? Are they not afraid of wetting themselves when playing with fire? Kill! Xiong Huan took a step forward and punched the green cauldron with both fists. At this moment, Mo Wu Dao did not even have time to react before the green cauldron landed on his chest and fell downwards. Blood spurted out, and all the bones in Mo Wu Dao's body were shattered. But before Xiong Huan could attack again, Xiao Tong had already stepped through the void and appeared in front of Mo Wu Dao. Then, under Mo Wu Dao's terrified gaze, the ancient sword in his hand slashed horizontally, directly chopping off Mo Wu Dao's head and destroying his soul. Oomph! A mere old dog dares to be arrogant in front of me. Xiao Tong held Mo Wu Dao's head with one hand and turned about to Ling Xiao. Master, fortunately, I did not disappoint you. Ling Xiao's eyes trembled. Finally, he sighed softly and waved his hand to insert the primordial demon blade into the ground. Then, he kept the flame in the glazed ancient pagoda before looking down at Duan Weya. In the main hall, all the blood and qi gathered and was devoured by the demon blade. Gulp! Demon blade! This is a demon blade. But what is going on? Is this youth not the saint of the saint sect? Why was he so vicious when he clearly had a mortal intent? Is there anyone else who wants to try? Ling Zhao's gaze swept past the few god emperors of Horizon City, only to see a white-haired elder suddenly take a step forward. Before he could even open his mouth, time was frozen by despicable Xiao, and his head was chopped off. At the last moment of his life, the old man's eyes clearly flashed with a trace of confusion. I only wanted to take the lead in surrendering. Why are you trying to kill me? City Lord, time's up. I'll vote. I'll vote. Young master, as you can see, I have no intention of making a move. Duan Weya's old face trembled as he forced out a smile. Ling Xiao smiled and nodded. Open your soul, see, and be my servant. Yes, yes. Duan Weya's eyes were filled with bitterness, but he didn't dare hesitate. With the skills that Ling Xiao had displayed just now, even a 7th-grade divine emperor would not be taken seriously by him. If he didn't surrender now, would he be waiting to be killed? Buzz! A wisp of soul light scattered, and the seal dissipated. Go and bring all the spiritual treasures and opportunities of Horizon City to me. After finishing his words, Ling Zhao's figure suddenly disappeared from where he stood. He left behind a dumbfounded Duan Weya hesitating for a moment. But in the end, he didn't dare to have any rebellious thoughts. Realm, Heavenly Palace. Ling Xiao looked calmly at the surprised Phoenix Rouge in front of him. Rouge, this is where my force is. Young master, can I ask you a question? Phoenix Rouge's red lips were tightly pursed, as if she was hesitating. From the moment Xiong Huan appeared, she felt that he was somewhat familiar. Only now did she realize that this was the great demon who had kidnapped Qin Shan when the demon clan attacked the mountain. What the F***CK? When did this great demon become young master's servant? Or was it that from the beginning, everything had been part of young master's plan? I know you want to ask, who am I? Ling Xiao smiled gently and raised his head to look at the sky in the distance. In the past, I was the saint of the sacred sect, but since I met you, I want to break the rules of this world. What? Break the rules? Phoenix Rouge's beautiful eyes narrowed fiercely. He's doing it again. Even though she had seen many ways to flirt with girls in her previous life, it was very strange. Every time she heard young master say such mushy words of love, she would feel her heart ripple, and she would feel impulsive. The reason wasn't it because young master's immortal appearance made people unable to resist him at all? What can I do? I know that men's mouths are deceiving ghosts, but I just want to seduce him and be deceived by him. Therefore, I advise all the young men who want to be the Sea King to look at themselves in the mirror and reflect on whether they are worthy or not. Originally, in my eyes, the so-called immortals and demons in this world were divided into good and evil. But since I saw the love between Qin Shan and Gu, I suddenly felt that I was wrong. Ling Zhao's tone was disappointed, and there was a sorrowful aura around him, especially when he looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle. His side profile was even more tragically handsome. Swish! The sky was very blue, but it was very sorrowful, because that was the color of cloth. Please bring my song back to my home, and leave her Dao heart behind while it's still hot. So, young master doesn't care about the difference between immortals and demons now. This world is very simple. The existence of all living things is the reason. The evil thing is the human heart. Take you, Rouge, for example. You are so pure and beautiful. What evil thoughts would you have? But didn't you still get humiliated and hunted down by them? Ling Xiao sighed, and Phoenix Rouge's eyes gradually became gentle. Young master, I am willing to accompany you to break the rules of this world. But before that, I want to apologize to you. I shouldn't have doubted you just now. I should have believed that young master's side is the safest place in the world. So, to express my apology to young master, I plan to compensate young master. Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly, but before he could react, Phoenix Rouge had already tiptoed and blocked all the words he wanted to say. As young master, I was wrong. Please punish me. Above the heavenly palace, there was a sudden spring breeze, and the waves rose and fell. It was as if there was a reef standing on the shore, never falling, being mercilessly slapped by the waves, stumbling and falling. In front of the heavenly palace, Han Qingxiu, Hua Hua, and Lin Ming stood quietly, looking at Ling Xiao, who was pushed to the ground by Phoenix Rouge, and the radiance around the two of them, with a complicated expression on their faces. That Phoenix Rouge, she is so shy. Hua Hua snorted, but her eyes revealed a trace of greed. Do you dare to say this in front of young master and Miss Feng? Han Qingxiu's personality was extremely cold, so at this moment, there was not much of a ripple in her heart. Lin Ming, on the other hand, had a comfortable temper and never thought of fighting for anything. On the contrary, this Phoenix Rouge was so bold and direct, daring to express her admiration for young master. She was very brave. This woman has the sky poison body, so she must be vicious. Two sisters, we have to stand on the same side in the future. We can't let a newcomer like her monopolize young master's favor. Hua Hua snorted. Of course, she did not dare to show any dissatisfaction to young master. What's more, the Phoenix Rouge had the sky poison body. If she poisoned him again, he would at most die in an accident. But this woman was so overbearing and direct, they would not have much time to interact with young master in the future. Suddenly, she missed Miss Feng. With that person's temper, young master would not dare to be so presumptuous, right? A day passed in the blink of an eye. In the heavenly palace, Ling Xiao called Han Qingxiu and the others to the front of the palace, introduced the Phoenix Rouge to them, and gave the star flame to Lin Ming. Now, he should start to arrange for the heavenly crocodile's ancestral land. The sky demon's treasure was indeed very tempting. As for the affairs of the realm, he was completely assured that the Phoenix Rouge would be in charge of it. Young master, are these your girlfriends? They're so scary. They won't beat me up, right? The Phoenix Rouge hid behind Ling Xiao, but there was no trace of panic in her eyes. Instead, there was a touch of pride. In this world, it was normal to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. Besides, how many people in this world could resist young master's immortal looks? What can I do? I want to live, and I want to live. Of course, I will accept all his girlfriends. No, they're very kind people. Ling Xiao shook his head with a smile. The Phoenix Rouge whispered again. Then, young master, can I beat them up? No, because each of them is the true heavens chosen in this world. I am afraid you will die. Hee, young master. I am just joking. Feng Ruji's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. Suddenly, she smiled at Han Qing Xiu and the others. Hello, big sisters. From today onwards, I will be your exclusive hairstylist, fashion designer, beauty housekeeper, skincare partner, cultivation consultant, privacy, good friend. Chapter 748. Rouge, you can stay here in peace from now on. This is my world. No one can enter without my will. Ling Zhao's expression was solemn. He looked up at the girls. A few days ago, I came across a wondrous technique. Study it well. I will test you in a few days. With that, Ling Zhao's eyes suddenly shone with soul light. It turned into 4 streams of light and entered the 4 girls' soul seas. Yin-yang profound art? The 4 girls were stunned. Then they blushed. There are many spiritual materials in this Qingquan pouch. Qingxiu, you and Rouge will take care of the realm's affairs. Ling Xiao threw a Qingquan pouch to the Phoenix Rouge. Then he disappeared. Lin Meng's personality was too gentle. She was not suitable to manage the realm's affairs. And Hua was too crazy. She was good at killing and eating people. But managing? Ling Xiao was satisfied as long as she could take care of herself. Only after Ling Zhao's figure disappeared did Feng Ling and Ning walk out of the Sky Hall. They looked coldly at the unfamiliar young lady before them. The 5 girls stood in a line, facing the Phoenix Rouge. The atmosphere was tense. Then, the Phoenix Rouge took out a Qingquan pouch and smiled mysteriously. Sisters, Rouge has prepared a gift for you. Oomph. You think we will accept you just like that? Hua snorted. Her eyes were full of mockery. Gift? After following the young master, they had seen all kinds of spiritual pills and spiritual treasures. Even if it was a Tao artifact or a grade 7 pill, they were still ordinary items in the hearts of the girls. What kind of treasure could a little immortal sect disciple have? You're Sister Hua, right? This is for you. Feng Rouge took out a black leather armor from her Qingquan bag. It was a one-piece kind. Sister Hua has a perfect figure. You're also tall and fair. If you wear this leather armor, you'll definitely be extremely sexy. Armor? Phoenix Rouge, do you think a piece of clothing? Hua sneered. Then she heard Phoenix Rouge say, I've engraved 77 formations on this leather armor. Its defense is as strong as a supreme grade Tao artifact. Of course, Sister Hua wouldn't care about Tao artifacts. However, only someone with Sister Hua's figure would be able to control this leather armor. Hua glanced coldly at Phoenix Rouge. Beside her, Ninger asked impatiently, Sister Rouge, what about mine? Ning, is so cute. Of course she has to wear a little princess dress. Phoenix Rouge smiled gently and took out a snow-white short skirt. The skirt was fluffy, with 2 strands of white silk and a pair of exquisite black leather shoes. She was a loli, so of course she had to dress up like a loli. Coupled with her twin ponytails, it was perfect. Wow, what a beautiful dress. Ning small eyes flashed with surprise. She took the white dress and put it on in front of everyone. What about me? Feng Ling frowned and looked at Phoenix Rouge with interest. To be honest, she didn't care about any spirit armor or Tao armor. However, Ninger's outfit was so cute that it made people's eyes light up. Little ancestor Feng Ling, you're born cold and noble. You're perfect for the dark, lowly style. Phoenix Rouge took out a piece of clothing and said, Little ancestor, try it. Soon, Han Qingxiu was wearing a white cheongsam. She was elegant and seductive. She was stunning. Lin Meng, on the other hand, was wearing a red dress that made her majestic figure look even more majestic. The girls looked at each other, looking at each other's strange yet stunning clothes. The coldness on their faces had dissipated and turned into excitement. As for women, numinous treasures might not be able to move them, but beautiful clothes would definitely work. You're considerate. Sisters, I have a strange item made of 9 heavens divine metal. It can change the curvature of your hair. Come, Sister Lin Meng, I'll give you a big perm. In Sky Border City, Ling Xiao descended from the sky and walked toward the city lord's residence. Behind him, Xiao Bo looked solemn. He held a sword in one hand and placed the other on his waist. He looked like a guard. In fact, along the way, anyone who looked at Ling Xiao would be glared at by him. His emperor's aura suppressed everyone, making them wet their pants in fear. "My lord, you left Mistress Rouge in the realm. Aren't you afraid that they'll fight?" Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows and looked at Xiao Bo with a playful expression. What was a transmigrator expert best at? Was it sky poison? Of course not. She was alive. Last night, he saw Phoenix Rouge working the whole night. He even rummaged through his Chinquan bag for many spirit armor materials. If she couldn't unite her sisters, she would have let down Ling Xiao's expectations of her. Do you think I tried so hard to make her submit because I coveted her white silk? Childish. Of course, I wanted her to spin silk of different colors. No, of course I admired her outstanding hands-on skills and her transmigrator mind and thoughts. Wise men don't fall in love, but fools are trapped by love. Slap. Xiao Bo slapped himself in the face, leaving a bloody mark. It's all my lord's fault for being so gentle. I forgot my identity for a moment. This subordinate has overstepped. Who are you? Outside the city lord's residence, two unfamiliar disciples reached out to stop Ling Xiao and Duan Rouge. However, the moment their voices fell, they saw Xiao Ping take a step forward. His emperor's might spread out with a bang, smashing the two disciples to the ground. Then, he grabbed the head of the person who opened his mouth and slapped it down. Are you blind? You don't even know our lord. Tell me, do you really want to die? My lord. When Duan Wu heard the commotion outside, he came out of the palace and bowed respectfully in front of Ling Xiao. At the same time, he handed over a cosmos bag with both hands. He looked extremely humble. I want you to do something. Ling Xiao put away the cosmos bag and transmitted his voice using his divine sense. The Flood Dragon tribe? It's my lord. Duan Wuya's eyes narrowed slightly, and his face was inexplicably pale. I slaughtered the Flood Dragon tribe? My lord, if you want me to die, you can be more direct. Although I, Duan Wuya, am a little powerful compared to the Flood Dragon tribe, I'm still a little lacking. Moreover, the experts in my sky border city were all killed by him. Cough, cough, you. What do you want me to use to exterminate the Flood Dragon tribe? Dogheads? Wait for my news. After saying that, Ling Xiao did not hesitate anymore. He turned around and walked out of Sky Border City. My lord! In front of the barren mountains and ancient forests on Sky Border Island, Ling Xiao stood with his hands behind his back. His white robes were cold, and there was an immortal aura circulating around him. Behind him, the void suddenly rippled for an instant. Layered Shadow took a step forward and bowed deeply. How is it? Young Master Ling Tian and Yi Sun seem to have encountered some trouble. Qin Chu has experts following him, so it's not a big problem. Over at Southern Border, Qin Qingshan has already made his move. However, he seems to have been targeted by the first divine envoy. With Layered Shadow's strength, although he had not reached the level of a God the Arch, his concealment and illusory Tao were far superior to ordinary God Thearchs. Now that the undercurrents in the sea region were surging, her duty was to lead the secret guards and gather all the information to Ling Xiao. Oh, the first divine envoy is targeting Qin Qingshan? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly and nodded slightly. It was obvious that Dugi Yunjin was most likely investigating the extermination of the immortal mystic sect. However, he had not used the divine token to transmit his voice. He was probably already suspicious of Duan Wuya's identity. My lord, should we remind Qin Qingshan to restrain himself for now? Yes. Send someone to spread the news that Shishu used the Ice Dao law to kill the Sea Race members. At the same time, reveal Qin Chu's whereabouts. Ling Xiao smiled warmly. This way, he would not be afraid that Dugi Yunjin would not come to the sea region. Chapter 749. Where is Ling Tian now? Originally, Ling Xiao did not intend to care about this brother of his. With this fellow's current cultivation in the way of the sword, even God Kings would not be able to pose a threat to him. However, Ling Xiao was a little shaken. This was the endless ocean, the territory of the demon race. Who knew if there were any hidden dangers or the fate of the sea race in the depths of the ocean? Ling Tian was indeed very strong, and he also had luck on his side. It was impossible for ordinary people to kill him. However, the cultivation time of the sea race's fate was calculated in centuries. Once Ling Tian encountered a demon race like Yijan, it would be hard to say whether he would win or lose. Forget it. I'm a villain. What are villains good at? After beating the young, the old will come out to take revenge. Moreover, Ling Xiao planned to bring Ling Tian to the ancestral land of the heavenly alligators. With Ling Tian's fate, he might have a fortuitous encounter there. It would be a shame if there were no secrets hidden in the 1,000-year-old secret realm. Lord, young Master Ling Tian is now in the territory of the Xian Turtle clan. Folded Shadow replied in a deep voice. As everyone knew, there were 10 royal clans in the ocean. However, in the end, there were only 2 clans that had been passed down for thousands of years. One was the Dragon Man clan in the Dragon Transformation Sea, and the other was the Xian Turtle clan in the Nether Sea. It was said that the ancestor of this clan had a trace of the black tortoise bloodline in his body. He was a descendant of the demon god. No one knew if this was true or not, but the physical defense of the Xian Turtle clan was the strongest in the ocean. Lord, it is said that the young master of the Xian Turtle clan is the #1 prodigy of the sea race. He is extremely powerful. Folded Shadow smiled eerily, and Ling Xiao's face flashed with a playful look. He nodded slowly. I know, #1 prodigy? Anyone who had anything to do with the #1 prodigy was either a villain's stepping stone or a person of destiny. He wondered if this tortoise could take a beating. Yes. Just as Ling Xiao took a step forward and was about to walk into the depths of the ocean, the Heavenly Alligator Clan token suddenly lit up with a ray of light. Emoshi. Is it young Master Xin Xiao? On the other side of the clan order, Yijan's low and depressed voice came. Ling Xiao had a playful look in his eyes. This thing was very cautious. His Yao core had been dug out, and his immortal origin had been seized. If he hadn't been careful, he would have been dragged out by Ziyin long ago. Yijan, I understand you. I'm Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao glanced at the distant sky. With a wave of his hand, he set up a spirit world that enveloped him in Xiaoping. Young Master, I have sent people to investigate. There are no experts guarding outside the Heavenly Alligator Ancestral Land, but there is a seal. At this time, Yijan's voice was full of disappointment. The Tao of formations was the demon race's weakness. Furthermore, Ziyin's methods could pierce through the sea. Ling Xiao guessed that the reason why she sealed the Heavenly Crocodile's ancestral land wasn't because she was worried about Yijan going in, but to prevent the Heavenly Crocodile's descendants from running out and causing trouble. A formation? Huh? Ling Xiao's voice was low, but the corners of his mouth raised into a smile. That's right. Young Master, I'm afraid our grand plan is ruined. Oh, I'm quite knowledgeable about the Tao of formations. Until Ling Xiao spoke in a calm tone, the other end of the sound transmission talisman actually fell into an indescribable silence. Young Lord Yijan, are you surprised? Are you surprised? Do you feel like I'm sending you a pillow when you want to sleep? That's right. I, Ling Xiao, the light of righteousness, love to help others, give others bliss, and make fun of it. 3 bets applause. Young Master, are you serious? I have a Taoist title called Breaking the Formation. However, Zihuang's methods are bound to be terrifying. Even I don't have absolute confidence. Ling Xiao's tone was extremely indifferent. Are you serious? Even if I'm not serious, do you have any other choice? How dare you talk nonsense? So awesome. You are indeed worthy of being Lord Ling Xiao. Then what are we waiting for? I'll wait for you in the Dragon Transformation Sea. Beep. The Chosen One is already on the path to death. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. Not yet. Not yet. Young Master, are you kidding me? Zihuang's methods are shocking. Once someone touches the array she set up, she will most likely sense it. Ling Xiao sneered. Since he promised to send a big gift to the Sea Emperor, he naturally had to fulfill his promise. What's more, do you think I asked Duan Tianya to go to the Flood Dragon clan to die? I'm asking the Flood Dragon clan to die so that I can arrange for someone to deal with their funeral matters. Their clan is already destroyed. Isn't it a waste to leave so many spirit treasures and spiritual materials behind? Young master, what should we do? Is there really no other way? Ijan sighed softly. His tone was disappointed. Obviously, his mentality was on the verge of collapse. It's not that there is no other way. Isn't it fine as long as we kill Ziyin? Kill Ziyin? At this moment, Ijan was obviously a little confused. If I could kill her, would I need to spend so much effort to go back and forth? Or, as long as I can delay her, I will have time to break the array and enter the ancestral land. Ling Xiao smiled gently. He couldn't be too hasty in setting up a plan, or else it would seem deliberate. Step by step, guide Ijan to think of a way to solve the problem. Look, the one who asked you to die is Ijan, not me. Young master, you're saying, right? Why didn't I think of that? As long as we delay Ziyin, we will have time to break the array. I have an idea. Young master, I will arrange for the Flood Dragon clan to attract Ziyin's attention. Look, the fish took the bait. Shut up. A crocodile is also a fish. I said it. This is not too good. Although the Flood Dragon clan is strong, Ziyin's cultivation is too terrifying. 1 or 2 god thearchs won't be enough to kill her. Young master, don't worry. The Flood Dragon clan is my Heavenly Alligator clan's slave clan. Although I have lost the immortal source, I still have the means to command them. I will ask the Flood Dragon clan to use the clan's strength to besiege Ziyin. Even if they can't kill her, it won't be a problem to delay her for a day or 2. In that case, I can only trouble the Flood Dragon clan. However, young Master Ijan, this matter can't be rushed. Do as I say first. Ask people to spread the news that there will be a heavenly creation in the sea region. Only the younger generation can fight for it. Otherwise, they will be suppressed by the heavenly Tao. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed with a hint of evil. There was not much time left for him. Since Dugi Yunjin was suspicious of him, it was better to kill him as soon as possible. Therefore, he needed to set up a trap and capture all the heavenly wills of the sea region. Where there was a creation, there was often a trace of heavenly wills. These people had nothing to do every day. Didn't they just like to join the fun? Wherever there was a creation, there would be a battlefield for them to show off and embarrass themselves. In this way, when the Heavenly Alligator clan's ancestral land appeared, wouldn't it be obvious at a glance how many leaks and stinky fish there were? Young master, what do you mean? With Ziyin's strength, she most likely won't die in the hands of the Flood Dragon clan. However, as long as we lead all the Sea Clan's geniuses to the Heavenly Alligator clan's ancestral land, they will be able to see the glory of the Heavenly Alligator clan. By then, won't it be clear who the heavenly wills belong to and who the overlords belong to? At the very least, with the young masters of the sea region under our control, we won't be afraid that those royal clans won't take action. Ling Xiao smiled coldly. Ijan's head was completely filled with shock. There was a feeling of stupefaction. Young master. Awesome. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. This was a good plan to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Chapter 750. Killing and destroying one's heart. This is a method of killing and destroying one's heart. Ijan was excited. At this time, in his heart, Ling Xiao had become his guiding light, his life's savior. You see, young master first traveled thousands of miles, worked tirelessly, and was not afraid of danger to deliver the immortal origin to him. Scheming against Ziyin was tantamount to death. Now, the young master had put in a lot of effort to help him return to the clan. Not only that, he had even paved the way for him to become the overlord of the sea area in the future. There were many strong clans in the endless sea area. Although some sea clans had turned to the Sea Emperor, they were just intimidated by her means. Ijan had understood the concerns of the clans in the sea area very well in the past 300 years. They were not sincere in surrendering. They were just afraid of being killed by Ziyin. However, if these sea area prodigies could see the glory of the heavenly alligator clan with their own eyes and understand who is the real king, they would definitely rely on him to achieve great things. Killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Opening the ancestral land was equivalent to stepping on the peak of life. So awesome. At this time, Yijan was already full of admiration for Ling Xiao. He even regretted not having met him earlier. He was selfless and devoted to him. Such a young master was a good teacher in life and a good friend on the path to immortality. Veep, the son of destiny, is overthinking and is sincerely grateful to the villain. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. 3 days later, order the dragon men to besiege the Sea Emperor Palace. It must be unexpected and do your best. As for me, I will go to the heavenly alligator's ancestral land with the young master. With that, Ling Xiao put away the heavenly alligator clan token and looked up at the distant sky. Since Yijan had the means to control the dragon men, it would be difficult for the sea area's royal clan not to die this time. My lord, where are we going now? Xiaobo stood beside Ling Xiao, his face inexplicably solemn. Fortunately, he surrendered as soon as he appeared. Otherwise, if he met this lord elsewhere, he would not even know how he would be killed. Now it seemed that the soul seal in his soul, sea, was not a restraint at all. It was a life-saving trump card. I am His Majesty's servant. What bad intentions can I have? Dark Nether Sea. Let's go and meet the #1 genius of the sea region. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. He took a step forward and disappeared from where he stood. However, right at the instant his figure vanished, another black, clothed figure silently appeared at the edge of the ancient island. His aura was extremely weak, and if one didn't investigate carefully, one would be utterly unable to notice his existence. Then, he took out a golden talisman and was about to send a message. Who sent you? But, at this moment, a cold laugh suddenly sounded from behind the black-clothed figure. Upon hearing the voice, he didn't hesitate in the slightest. Spiritual light blossomed around him as he madly fled into the distance. Why are you in such a hurry? Are you hiding something? Ling Xiao sneered, but his figure did not move at all. The entire void seemed to freeze for an instant. In the distant horizon, a tall figure appeared out of thin air and grabbed the fleeing black-clothed figure in his hand. This person's cultivation was only at the 4th grade god Emperor realm. However, the cultivation technique he cultivated was a concealment technique. When Ling Xiao was conversing with Yijan earlier, he had already faintly sensed this person's existence. In order to avoid alerting the enemy, Ling Xiao deliberately pretended as if nothing had happened and pretended to leave. In fact, he had entered the realm. His purpose was to make the black-clothed figure lower his guard. It wasn't that the black-clothed figure wasn't cautious enough. It was just that the black-clothed figure would never have imagined that the young man before him, who looked only 18 or 19 years old, actually had a divine soul that had reached the 8th grade god Emperor realm. With the ancestral talisman, even a strand of divine consciousness would not be able to escape Ling Xiao's detection. Moreover, the black-clothed figure would never have imagined that a young man's soul sea would contain a realm that could allow him to disappear at any time. However, it seemed that this person had just discovered his whereabouts. As for who this person was, Ling Xiao guessed that it was most likely the first divine envoy. Human race, God Emperor realm. It wasn't that Ziyin didn't have the ability to control him. It was just that he had appeared at the wrong time. If it was Ziyin, she would have sent someone to monitor him after they parted ways with the Flood Dragon humans. However, this person just had to appear today. Interesting. It seemed that our first divine envoy had already made some arrangements. Of course, if this person had hurriedly sent a message when he was hiding, Ling Xiao was confident that he could capture him while he was distracted. After all, since he dared to come, there was no way he would return. Are you going to say it yourself, or should I help you? Ling Xiao sneered. The black-clothed man snorted coldly. Just as he was about to crush the sound transmission talisman in his hand, Xionghuan grabbed his arm and tore it off. Bring him back to the realm. In the depths of the realm, Ling Xiao held a sound transmission talisman in his hand and smiled playfully. Behind him, Xionghuan held the black-clothed God Emperor's head and firmly controlled him. You're the first divine envoy subordinate? How did you know? I clearly didn't say anything. The black-clothed God Emperor snorted coldly. His expression suddenly froze. It seemed that he had said too much. Suddenly, he felt like he had become a traitor. Then, do you know who I am? Bah, evil demon Ling Xiao. You'll be destroyed sooner or later for creating chaos in the sea. Hearing this, Ling Xiao frowned slightly and seemed to be deep in thought. Ling Xiao? He actually knows my name? Does that mean that Dugi Yunjin should also know? Did someone leak the news, or Dugi Yunjin already knew my identity? That inexplicably familiar feeling surfaced in Ling Xiao's mind again. Something was wrong. Do you recognize this item? Ling Xiao suddenly reached out and took out the divine token from his Qiankuan ring. At this moment, he still didn't know Dugi Yunjin's identity, but everything would be clear once he tested this spy. Since he was a member of the Saint sect, Ling Xiao didn't even waste energy to search his soul sea. Given how cautious this faction was, most of the experts in the Saint sect had their divine souls sealed. The black-robed God Emperor stretched his neck and tried to take a closer look. In the next moment, his eyes suddenly focused. The Divine Master Token. This is the Divine Master Token. No wonder Master Dugu ordered me to secretly track Ling Xiao. This evil demon actually killed the saint of the Saint sect? Evil demon, how dare you kill the saint of the Saint sect? Ling Xiao looked at the black-robed God Emperor helplessly. Do you think that the Divine Master wouldn't notice if I killed the saint of the Saint sect? Do you think Dugi Yunjin would send a retard like you to track me? What you said makes sense. At this moment, the God Emperor of the Saint sect was suddenly at a loss. If Ling Xiao really killed the saint of the Saint sect, Master Dugu would have rushed over personally with a knife. Since he knew this young man's name, wouldn't it be easy for him to find him? But how did the divine token fall into his hands? The fluctuation in the token couldn't be faked. It was the Divine Master's prestige. This didn't make sense. Could it be that he was good friends with the saint? That couldn't be right. Why did Master Dugu ask me to track him? I'm very confused. Fine, I'll tell you the truth. I am a saint of the Saint sect that you mentioned. Ling Xiao sighed and looked a little weary. The black-robed God Emperor's face turned blank. Greet the saint, but that still didn't seem right. Why did Master Dugu ask me to track the saint? Chapter 751. Tell me, what did Dugu Yunjin tell you? When did you come to Southern Border? Ling Xiao looked indifferent. The confusion between the eyebrows of the God Emperor in black dissipated the doubts in his heart. Dugu Yunjin probably only suspected his identity and was not sure that the saint had been replaced by someone else. Otherwise, Dugu Yunjin could have suppressed him personally. But where did the problem come from? Those who knew his name had been killed in the immortal mystic sect. Could it be that the first divine envoy was really someone he knew? Lord Saint, I am Eugene, an elder of the sacred sect. I have been working in Southern Border. Today I was ordered by the first divine envoy to find traces of Ling Xiao in the sea region. I didn't know. Ling Xiao is your name. Eugene swallowed his saliva and his eyes were still in a daze. What was going on? What game were these two big shots playing? According to the iron law of the sacred sect, seeing the divine decree was the same as seeing the divine master. The first divine envoy was very powerful and mysterious. However, the sacred sect was the sect of the divine master. No matter what was going on between the two, it had nothing to do with him. Oh, other than you, are there any other experts of the sacred sect in Southern Border? Ling Xiao nodded indifferently. It was clear that Eugene was not one of Dugi Yunjin's men, but one of the sacred sect. The difference was like the third and fourth divine envoys. They were loyal to the divine master, but not to the current divine master. In other words, no matter who was in that position, they would be loyal to the divine master. There's also the Water Emperor. She is a 5th grade divine emperor. 2 days ago, She was sent to Eastern Border by Lord Dugu. I don't know the details. Yu Jin's tone was humble and reserved. Although he had many doubts in his heart, it was obvious that there was a conflict between the saint and the divine envoy. Otherwise, why would he investigate the saint for no reason? It seemed that he had discovered something great. Oh, Ling Xiao nodded and smiled. Dugu Yunjin was very cautious. In order to avoid alerting the enemy, he wanted to investigate the saint's background secretly. However, he probably didn't expect that an 18-year-old youth could easily capture a 4th-grade divine emperor. Eugene was an expert in tracking and concealing techniques. If it wasn't for Ling Xiao's early detection and Xiaopo's presence, even an ordinary 7th or 8th-stage god emperor might not be able to capture him alive. However, Lord Dugu, there's still many things that you can't imagine. The first oracle has betrayed the saint. I am here to investigate the evidence and report to the Divine Lord. Ling Xiao's expression had already regained its calm. However, the words he spoke caused Yu Jin's expression to change drastically. Betray the saint? This Dugu Yunjin was too arrogant. The 4 great divine envoys entered the 4 borders to search for the person who comprehended the Tao law of extreme ice. This person has already appeared in the sea region, but Dugu Yunjin pretended not to know. Recently, traces of demons have appeared in the southern border. I guess it is most likely related to the first divine envoy. Ling Xiao's tone was solemn. He stood with his hands behind his back while his body surged with an immortal aura. He truly seemed to be concerned about the common people and seemed to be otherworldly. That's impossible, right? Of course, this is only my guess. However, I've already secretly investigated the whereabouts of that frost monster. Since you are aware of this secret, why don't you join forces with me and probe this Lord Dugu? Ling Xiao suddenly turned his head and looked at Eugene. Seeing that Eugene seemed to be hesitating, he sighed softly and said, I hope that everything is just my guess. Holy son, how do you plan to test him? You only need to do this. Ling Xiao smiled gently and said a few words to Eugene in a low voice. Finally, Eugene nodded slightly and took a deep breath. The Holy Son's actions are only to test Lord Dugu. If Lord Dugu is innocent, there will naturally be no danger at all. What can I do? I am just a minor character. Of course, I will listen to whoever controls me. However, Eugene would never have dreamed that the voice transmission talisman Ling Xiao was holding now was not the one he had before. Lord Dugu, yes. A simple and low voice came from the other end of the voice transmission talisman. Eugene raised his head and looked at Ling Xiao. He swallowed his saliva and said in a low voice, I have already investigated the matter you asked me to do. Ling Xiao is now in the sea area, searching for an evil demon called Qin Shu. Oh, in the void far away, folded shadows figures suddenly appeared. He nodded at Ling Xiao, and the 2 figures disappeared at the same time. That's right. The voice transmission talisman in Eugene's hand was not the Holy Sun, but Folded Shadow. The reason why Ling Xiao had set up such a method was to let Folded Shadow understand Eugene's tone and speaking habits. Ling Xiao naturally could not trust an elder of the holy sect who had not even planted a soul seal. No matter how lowly and retarded he appeared to be, if he had the slightest disloyalty, he would completely mess up the entire game. Moreover, the human heart was really complicated. Who knew if he was pretending to be like this on purpose to make Ling Xiao lower his guard? The essence of a plan was to turn all uncontrollable factors into controllable ones. Villains would die from carelessness. In the north of the southern border, this place was covered in lush mountains and ancient trees. It gave off a feeling of otherworldly beauty. A black-clothed youth slowly walked out from where Lin Shan was. His expression was cold and ruthless. There seemed to be a bloody aura lingering around him. Above his head, the soul-sucking ghost pearl emitted a piercingly cold, bloody radiance. Upon closer inspection, there seemed to be tens of thousands of souls roaring inside. It was very strange. Looking behind him, one could see an ancient sect standing in the middle of the mountains. However, strangely, there wasn't even the slightest bit of movement, nor was there even the slightest fluctuation of vitality. In fact, there was no bloody aura lingering in the air. Young Master sent a message saying that the first Holy Sun has his eyes on you. He asked you to be careful. The void rippled. Guzhan's figure descended from the sky and stood beside Qingshan. To be honest, Guzhan felt very complicated toward this former disciple of the immortal mystic sect. If it were not for him, Guzhan would not have led the 4 great demonic sects to attack the immortal mystic sect. If it were not for him, Sir would not have died in the hands of the immortal mystic sect. However, in the end, he was the only person in his daughter's heart. Now, Qingshan had turned into a demon and slaughtered the common people. He said it was to revive Sai. Moreover, Qingshan had been blessed by the divine statue and was chosen as the new leader of the demonic sections. Even Guzhan felt his hair stand on end when he saw Qingshan. This feeling had nothing to do with one's cultivation. It was as if this youth had sold his soul to the Netherlord. Oh, Qingshan nodded indifferently. Suddenly, he raised his head and looked into the distance. Sunlight shone through the gaps between the branches and leaves and shone on his face. It made his pale and sickly face look even more terrifying. Let's go to the next one. Sigh. Guzhan sighed. There was some worry between his brows. Although he was a demon, he still trembled with fear when he saw Qingshan's actions. Qingshan had slaughtered tens of thousands of living beings just for the obsession in his heart. Every time that blood pearl rose, the world would become a purgatory. Tens of thousands of ghosts would appear, and heaven and earth would cease to exist. Guzhan did not know where the evil pearl came from. In short, he had a feeling that if Qingshan wanted to kill him, it might not be impossible. After the 2 figures disappeared, a ripple appeared in the void again after a long while. Immediately after, a figure wearing a golden robe and a golden mask stepped out of the void. It was the first divine envoy, Yunjin. He lowered his head and looked at the mountain of corpses below. There was not a trace of emotion in his eyes. Lord Dugu, just as Yunjin turned his head and looked in the direction where Qingshan and the others disappeared, a soul voice suddenly sounded from his Yin and Yang ring. What's the matter? Lord, I've investigated the matter you asked me to do. Ling Xiao is currently tracking down an evil demon called Qin Shu in the sea. Qin Shu. Yunjin frowned slightly. He had heard about the major events that had happened in the sea in the past few days. It was said that Qin Shu was a demon cultivator. He killed the prodigies of the sea in an extremely bloody manner. Of course, it was not that Yunjin could see through Qin Shu's identity as a demon cultivator at a glance. It was just that this demon was incomparably arrogant. Every time he killed someone, he would leave someone alive to tell the world that he was a demon. If it were not for the fact that the demon in the southern border was even more bloody and the people he killed were humans, he would have gone to the sea and killed them long ago. Oh, continue to follow him. Report to me immediately if anything happens. Yes. Lord, there's one more thing. What is it? Yunjin's eyes narrowed slightly. He raised his head and looked in the direction where Qingshan and the other person disappeared. There's another demon in the sea. He's extremely brutal and slaughters living beings. It's said that all the people he killed were frozen into sand sculptures. Chapter 752. What? Are you sure? Even with Yunjin's temperament, his eyes flickered with surprise. Frozen into an ice sculpture. He had entered the southern border to search for that person, but he had found nothing after a few months. How could it be? How could she appear out of nowhere? Was it a coincidence? There was a hint of a conspiracy. That's right. I heard that the people of the sea area called her Ice Demon. Ice Demon? Yunjin clenched his fists, and his eyes suddenly shone with divine light. If it was a coincidence, it was too much of a coincidence. Unlike the 3rd and 4th divine messengers, as a loyal servant of the divine master, he knew some secrets from 300 years ago. But now, there was no news of the divine master, and the chosen felt that something was wrong. He had wanted to kill Qingshan. the evil demon who had wreaked havoc in the southern border, and then returned to the holy sect. But now, I know. You don't have to worry about the ice demon for now. You only need to keep an eye on Ling Xiao, and I will handle the rest. In the end, Dugi Yunjin put away the voice transmission talisman and stood on the spot, as if he had fallen into deep thought. Was Ling Xiao the chosen, or an evil demon? How was he related to the successor of the Ling people whom he had met in the eastern border? The situation of the entire sea area was like a cloud of fog, and no one could see clearly or guess what was going on. But he was well-versed in yin, yang, heaven, earth, and he had divined all kinds of things. But the answer he got was a narrow escape. Even if it's a trap, who in the Shengzhou land can kill me? Ziyan? Dugu Yunjin snorted coldly, and the golden light in his eyes turned into a vision. There seemed to be a divine tower standing at the top of the sky, suppressing all living things. In the Shengzhou land, except for the divine master, Dugi Yunjin did not take anyone seriously. Even a ninth-grade divine emperor was not worth mentioning. In the end, he took out a talisman from his universe ring and sent a voice transmission through his spirit. Summoned the 6 elders to the southern border. In the realm, Eugene looked at Ling Xiao, who was walking over from the void, with a confused look on his face. Chosen, I've done as you ordered, but why haven't you asked your servant to put me down? You're not bad. Ling Xiao nodded indifferently, his eyes extremely cold. Several months had passed since Meng Yuan was imprisoned by him, and the 2 divine envoys were killed. However, the divine master still did not move. From the 3rd divine emissary's words, Ling Xiao guessed that the relationship between Dugi Yunjin and the divine master was not ordinary. However, this was not ordinary. It also seemed to be extremely limited. In other words, the divine master did not trust anyone in the Saint sect. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the 4 divine envoys to have no connection with each other. Of course, if Ling Xiao's guess was right, this divine master's actions in the dark were extremely sinister. Even if Dugi Yunjin was his loyal servant, the divine master might not trust him wholeheartedly. How could a person who stole the teachings easily believe anyone? The fact that Dugi Yunjin was still in the southern border proved everything. A 9th-grade divine emperor was mysterious and unfathomable. Normally, to divine masters, he was like a sharp knife. However, there were times when the saber would also cut him. Thus, it was likely that the divine master's disappearance had put him in a difficult situation. Let's go. Ling Xiao lifted his feet and walked toward the southwest region. Behind him, Xiong Huan held Eugene's head with one hand and followed closely with Xiao Pe. Saint, I can walk on my own. Eugene felt a headache in midair. He suddenly felt that his heart was about to turn cold. Could it be that he was too nervous just now and did not speak fluently? Did he make the saint unhappy? When the 3 figures descended from the sky and landed in front of the Hall of Medicine, Shi Dandi, Han Zhan, and the others immediately stood up and bowed deeply to Ling Xiao. My lord. Yes, put him into the array. Ling Xiao nodded slightly and motioned for Xiong Huan to put Eugene into the spiritual fire array. Until now, the elder of the Saint sect still looked confused. This seemed to be an array that connected the alchemy fire and the alchemy furnace. There were many youths refining pills in front of the furnace. Then, what role did he play in the array? Also, why did the 2 skinny figures in the array look so familiar? Aren't they the 2 elders of the Saint sect? What the F***CK? Before Eugene could figure out the reason, he was pressed into the array by Xiong Huan and was completely sealed. Although his body felt warm, why did his heart feel so cold? It seems that I have to make a trip back to the eastern border. Ling Xiao pondered for a moment and turned around to walk toward the Sky Hall. However, the moment his figure appeared in front of the palace, his face almost instantly froze. At this moment, in front of the Sky Hall, several women were gathered around the Phoenix Rouge. They were holding something that looked like sunflower seeds in their hands and were chatting enthusiastically. That was not the main point. The main point was that whether it was Feng Ling or Han Qingxiu, their clothes seemed to be charming. F***CK. This row of black and white stockings long legs, and different styles of clothes complemented the different styles of the beautiful girls. One had to admit that men were visual animals. Even though Han Qing Xiao and the others were peerless beauties, they were a little tired of looking at long dresses and long gowns. But now, the women had changed into new clothes that accentuated their different temperaments. It was truly breathtaking. Pure Lolita, dark Lolita, cold and arrogant girl, dignified and virtuous girl, leather-armored demon girl. Rouge, you still understand me. Young master, why are you back? Phoenix Rouge turned around and looked at the surprised young man standing at the side. The corner of her mouth raised into a beautiful arc hem. It's nothing. I came back to take a look. Young master, you came back just in time. I have something to report. I plan to divide the territory into several forces and have them compete every month. They will kill each other, and the weak will be eliminated. The winner will be rewarded. Also, I think we should give the forces a name and custom-made uniform. This will help the subordinates to have a sense of belonging. What do you think? All right, do as you see fit. Yes, young master. I have ordered Pill Emperor Sure to stop managing the medicine hall and focus on refining 7th-grade pills for us sisters to cultivate. Otherwise, we will be left behind by young master. Phoenix Rouge got up and snuggled into Ling Zhao's arms. Her face was filled with happiness. F***CK. How could she not be happy? For the past 10 years, she had been anxious studying the Tao. Now, in this territory, she was the mistress. She had everything under her control. Moreover, the rare spiritual materials for cultivation in the outside world could not be found everywhere in this territory. They could only be described as trash. In just one day, she had shown signs of breaking through just by eating spiritual pills. What was there to say? Young master, please right now, immediately play with my feelings. Tonight, I will stay in the Sky Palace for one night. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. He looked up at Han Qing Xiao and Lin Meng. The two girls blushed and looked away shyly. Hua, come with me to do something. At the same time, deep in the sea, two figures stepped into the air and flew towards the east. According to Eugene, Elder Shui was a 5th-grade divine emperor. Even if he did not stop, it would take him at least 7 or 8 days to reach the Ling people. With the flowy demon dragon's body, she would definitely be able to reach the Ling clan before her. Although Eugene did not know why Elder Shui was going to the eastern border, Ling Xiao guessed that she was going for the Ling people. When the time came, isn't this Elder Shui? Are you looking for Ling Xiao? I am. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Sending your head from 1,000 miles away, you are really... The gift is light, but the thought is heavy. Chapter 753. Realm, Immortal Spring. Ling Xiao hugged Lin Meng and Han Qing Xiao as they lay in the spring, resting. Han Qing Xiao was fast asleep. Lin Meng opened her eyes and looked at Ling Xiao quietly. There was a glimmer of light in the sky. It was obvious that they had fought a sleepless battle last night. Master, where did Sister Hua go? Lin Meng was nestled in Ling Zhao's arms. She looked tired. She was most familiar with Hua among the women by Ling Zhao's side. Lin Meng did not expect that the demonic dragon that her master stepped on when he descended from the sky was Hua. Back to the eastern border. I have something to do. Naturally, Ling Zhao's pure purple Qi Dao body had returned with Hua. The heavenly crocodile ancestral land was about to open. His original body could not leave. Although the two divine bodies were at the same level, the ancestral talisman and the immemorial demonic blade were all in his original body's sea of soul. Plus, Sect Master Tai Xian was at the eastern border. What could a mere water emperor do? Oh, Master. Actually, Master Xianyuan misses you a lot. She always talks about you. She said that you are not in any danger outside. Why don't you ask her to help you? Lin Meng smiled gently. In the past 6 months, she had been cultivating with the moon of Xianyuan. She had mastered alchemy and spiritual fire. Although her talent was not as good as Han Qing Xiao and Ning Er's. Fortunately, Lin Meng worked hard enough and awakened the great spiritual fire body. As long as she had enough spiritual fire for her cultivation, Ling Xiao believed that her future achievements would not be lower than anyone else's. Ming, you have been with your mother for 6 months. Have you seen her do anything unusual? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with curiosity. Since he was young, the moon of Xianyuan had always been a domineering and loving mother in front of him, not to mention outsiders. Even if it was a member of the clan, if anyone dared to make Ling Xiao unhappy, he would not spare them. That was why Ling Xiao's original owner had developed such an arrogant personality. However, the more Ling Xiao came into contact with the outside world, the more he began to feel the vastness of the world. He increasingly felt that the object of inheritance from the Dan origin Holy Land that his mother spoke of did not seem to belong to the Shengzhou continent. Furthermore, even the Upper Realm Ghost Clan's treasure, the soul-sucking Ghost Pearl, was not as powerful as the boundary-breaking talisman. Back then, it was his mother who refined the spirit pill used to shape Nine Nether's body. But thinking about it, even the old grandpa in Lin Shi's ring had waited bitterly for hundreds of years and still hadn't been able to reconstruct his body. Thinking about it this way, the moon of Xuanyuan's methods could be said to be terrifying. Abnormal behavior? Lin Ming was stunned. She didn't understand what Ling Xiao meant. Forget it. I'll ask her myself when I return to the eastern border. Ling Xiao trusted his mother completely. Regardless of whether or not she was hiding her identity, she would never hurt him. She naturally had her reasons for not saying anything. Perhaps the time was not ripe yet. Or perhaps it was a form of protection for him. That spiritual fire, when do you plan to merge? That star flame is still a little irritable. I need to use my spiritual energy to nourish it for a period of time. When it lets down its guard against me, I'll try to merge it. Young master, I heard Sister Rouge talk about a lot of interesting things today. She asked me to help her refine some sky poison. She said that she wanted to create a batch of spirit treasures for the Shadow Guards. Young master, I feel more and more that Sister Rouge is amazing. She hasn't heard of many of her ideas before. Lin Ming's eyes flashed with admiration, but her tone was inexplicably low. And Sister Qingqiu, Ning, and little ancestor Fengling. They're all amazing. You are also very powerful. The spiritual fire of heaven and earth is originally the most ferocious thing in the world, but you can merge them into your body without using any cultivation method. This in itself is an extremely terrifying talent. Don't worry, I will find more spiritual fire for you to cultivate. Ling Xiao reached out and rubbed Lin Ming's pretty face. As for Phoenix Rouge, she was originally a transmigrator. Her ideas were strange and interesting. What was there to fuss about? However, using sky poison to refine spirit treasures and giving them to the Shadow Guards to control, it seemed that this destined girl had walked further and further on the path of being a villain. Ming, how's your cultivation of the mysterious yin-yang formula that I taught you? Young master, Ming is stupid. There's still many things that I don't understand. It's okay. Practice makes perfect. I'll give you some pointers alone. Young master, a day passed in the blink of an eye. In the depths of the sea, there was a place with black water. This place was surging with waves. The demonic aura was at its peak. There were layers of Taoist rhymes flowing with the waves. It could be said to be magical. Ling Tian frowned slightly. He looked at a group of sea race youths in front of him. They were dressed differently and had strange appearances. Get lost. F*CK. I've been in the sea for countless years. I've never seen a human as arrogant as you. At the head of the group, a sea demon whose face was covered with scales sneered. However, his eyes intentionally looked at Yi Sun, who was beside Ling Tian. Young Master Taimu, how old are you? Behind him, a sea race youth asked with a puzzled expression. Was endless time so worthless these days? F*CKU. Why do you care how old I am? That human brat. If you know what's good for you, leave that girl behind. Get lost. Taimu snorted coldly. His demonic aura was vast and mighty. He vaguely turned into a demonic shadow that stood above Ling Tian's head. Although Taimu was a little arrogant, his cultivation had reached the 6th stage of the divine Marquis realm. Even in the endless sea domain, he could be called a genius. You're courting death. Ling Tian snorted coldly. In the past few days, the news about a precious treasure appearing in the sea had spread far and wide. Countless geniuses of the sea race began to gather in one place and formed groups in order to seize the opportunity when the treasure appeared. The sea race youths in front of Ling Tian were subordinates of a young master of the Xian turtle clan, who was also the #1 genius of the sea. The one who spoke was Tai Mu, the young master of the Iron Turtle clan, one of the top 10 royal clans in the sea. He was also a well-known figure in the sea. The Xian Turtle clan, the Bone Clam clan, and the Iron Turtle clan were all famous for their defense. Tai Mu was now one of the most loyal subordinates of a young master of the Xian Turtle clan. Seeking death? Brothers, he said, I'm seeking death? Ha! Everyone knows what the young master of the Xian clan likes, right? If we can give this human girl to the young master. He. Go. Let him know the power of the sea race. Boom. Several demonic shadows rose into the sky and rushed toward Ling Tian. Ling Tian just calmly held the ancient sword in his hand and gently slashed at the void. Buzz! A dazzling ray of light quietly bloomed. Then, a neat gully appeared in the sea. Moreover, before the smile on Tai Mu's face completely disappeared, he saw the figures of the 4 sea race youths suddenly split in the middle and sprinkle down. The thick smell of blood instantly filled the air and dyed the entire sea red. However, at this moment, Ling Tian seemed to be hesitating. Junior brother Ling Tian, what's wrong? Yi Sun frowned slightly and looked nervous. It was the first time she saw Ling Tian show such an expression when he was fighting someone. Inexplicably, Yi Sun suddenly felt uneasy. Suna, is there room in your interspatial ring? And what's wrong? Brother loves seafood. Pack these up and bring them back for him. Remember, use the Life Dao law to keep them fresh. Yi Sun-er's eyes trembled slightly, and a hint of resentment flashed on her pretty face. I knew it. In this world, only Ling Xiao could make Ling Tian show such an expression. Chapter 754. What did he say? His brother likes to eat seafood? Tai Mu and the others were in a daze. They did not understand what seafood was, until they saw the beautiful girl put the corpses of the Sea clan members into her universe ring. Then they swallowed hard. So the seafood is mine? That young man means his brother likes to eat us, Sea clan members? I thought I was arrogant enough, but when I saw the young man in black, I thought he was more arrogant than me. But I did not expect your brother to be even more arrogant. I have been in the sea domain for countless years and only know that demons eat humans. This is the first time I have heard that someone likes to eat demons. Has the world changed? Damn, you made me a little unsure of myself after all this. Young Master Tai Mu, this young man, is a bit powerful. Why don't we strategically retreat and send someone to follow him to find young Master Xian? Smack! Before one of the Sea clan prodigies could finish speaking, Tai Mu slapped him and sent him flying. Are you messing with me? I just joined young Master Xian yesterday. I haven't even started to show my worth, and you are already persuading me to join him? If this spreads, how can young Master Xian lead me in the future? If a young man of the human race can make you lose your courage, how can you work under young Master Xian in the future? No matter who comes today, I want this girl. I said it. Tai Mu snorted, and his body suddenly expanded. In a short time, he turned into a huge fish demon that was dozens of feet long. It was covered in black scales, giving off an indestructible feeling. Billowing demonic aura gushed out like a tide, stirring up the entire sea domain. Brat, since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. As soon as he finished speaking, Tai Ming pounced on Ling Tian without any hesitation. Buzz! The waves of demonic aura were vast and mighty. Ling Tian's eyes flashed with seriousness. He stepped forward and blocked in front of Yi Sun. The immortal extermination sword in his hand suddenly shone with divine radiance. Vaguely, there seemed to be a celestial shadow that stepped through the void and pierce through the ages, standing above Ling Tian's head. Especially that pair of indifferent eyes, there was a myriad of strange phenomena. It was like a primordial light that swept away all evil in the world. Buzz. Then, under everyone's shocked gazes, the ancient sword in Ling Tian's hand lightly slashed down. A wisp of extremely sharp, cold light instantly shattered the world. It was condensed from countless Tao patterns and rushed toward Tai Ming. It was as if the Milky Way had fallen from the nine heavens, illuminating the dark and deep sea region as bright as day. The heavens and the earth seemed to have fallen silent at this moment, and then the tune of the grand Tao resounded slowly and shook the world. Before the sword arrived, Tai Mu's face was already filled with fear. Why did he suddenly have the urge to pee? However, now that he had revealed his true form, there was no way out. A scarlet light flashed in his fist-sized eyes. Strands of demonic chi condensed into scars in front of him, transforming into a 1,000-foot-long iron scale. Demonic runes flowed on it, containing supreme, ferocious might. Boom! The sword light flashed like a white steed and landed on the iron scales in an instant. In the next moment, all the Sea Tribe prodigies' faces trembled violently. Even with Tai Zhao's strength, he couldn't stop the sword light for even a moment. Crack! The sound of something shattering resounded. Suddenly, cracks appeared on the iron scales, and in a moment, it turned into spiritual light and disappeared. However, the tens of thousands of sword intents didn't slow down and slash down horizontally. Damn it! How can this young human be so strong? Taiyu's fear size narrowed, especially when he felt the immortal might contained in the sword light. He felt a trace of inexplicable despair in his heart. Pucci, at the moment of life and death, Tai Mu returned to his human form and barely avoided his vital parts. However, the sword light still pierced through his shoulder and chopped off his arm. Suddenly, several screams came from behind him. The Sea Tribe prodigies who were watching the battle from afar were slashed into nothingness by the remaining power of the sword. Gulp! Tai Mu swallowed his saliva and didn't even care about the sharp pain in his arm. He turned around and tried to escape. You want to leave? The corners of Ling Tian's mouth curled up into a cold smile. Even his eyes seemed to flash with a trace of scarlet. At this moment, his temperament began to become gloomy and evil, inexplicably making people feel cold all over. Tai Mu's body trembled, and even his footsteps seemed to be extremely messy. This young man, he's actually a sword demon. Buzz! The sudden sword hum sounded like the grudge of the nether prison ghost mansion. On the face of the immortal shadow above Ling Tian's head, there was a trace of a mocking and evil smile. The sword light bloomed and finally turned into tens of thousands of sword shadows, tearing the sea curtain apart. It was terrifying and terrifying, enveloping Tai Mu. No! Boom! At this moment, a spiritual spiral suddenly appeared in the sky above the sea, and an ancient and deep aura leisurely spread out. A wisp of black fog quietly enveloped the world, annihilating the sword light and standing under the tens of thousands of swords. Clang! 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 The sword light collided with the black fog brazenly. The terrifying heavenly might overlapped, dazzling and containing indescribable killing intent. However, in the end, the sword light still didn't penetrate the black fog. On the contrary, where the sword light disappeared, an ancient figure gradually revealed its true form. In the sea, a demonic aura suddenly spread across thousands of miles. Within 100 miles, all the demonic beasts prostrated themselves on the ground, trembling in fear. Only Ling Tian slightly narrowed his eyes, but there wasn't a trace of fear on his face. Instead, there was a trace of excitement. In other words, since the day he walked down the path of swords, there was only the desire to kill all his enemies left in his heart. That's right. The stronger the enemy, the stronger he would be. He had comprehended the true essence of sword Tao in the face of death. Perfecting the Tao law was far from the end of this path. What guts! To think that a puny human would dare to injure the young master of our race. The old man raised his head and looked at Ling Tian. His hand that was hidden in the black robe slightly clenched, and a trace of blood seemed to be slipping down silently. At this moment, there was also a trace of astonishment in his eyes. As a fifth-grade divine emperor, he was actually injured by a divine marquis ant. Even if it was just a trace of sword mark, it was still a kind of humiliation to him. Elder Tai Fu, why are you here? Forget it. Hurry up and kill him. Tai Fu stood behind the old man, and the fear on his face had already dissipated. Instead, it was replaced by a trace of gloomy resentment. In recent days, the news that there was a demon in the sea that specifically hunted down the sea tribe's geniuses had caused an uproar. Therefore, all the young masters of the sea tribe who were known by name were secretly followed by experts to prevent any mishaps from happening. Although the Tai clan was a royal clan, it was at the bottom of the royal clan. With a fifth-grade divine emperor as a guardian, it was considered a respectable honor in the sea. Of course, no matter if it was a human or a demon, since they were on the path to immortality, they would have to go through trials and tribulations. The guardian's role was not to ward off disasters, but to break through death situations. However, although the young man in front of him had some demonic characteristics, he seemed to be a little different from the rumored true demon. It was said that the true demon who killed demons had an unparalleled demonic intent and was extremely arrogant. However, the person in front of him was too low-key. No, if you had told me earlier that you were so awesome, would I have acted cool in front of you? The human race was indeed treacherous and knew how to pretend to be a pig. Chapter 755. Despicable Human. How dare you act so presumptuously in my sea? Today, I will destroy your body and soul. Tai Ku shouted coldly. His demonic aura transformed into a giant palm and slammed down on Ling Tian. Instantly, the sea churned and spiritual aura surged. The originally calm sea turned into thousands of waves in the night. Then, Tai Ku turned around and looked at Tai Mu behind him. Young master, rumor has it that an ancient realm expert will appear in the depths of the sea. The clan leader asked me to bring the purple soul divine halberd to you. He hopes that you can show the might of our clan. In Tai Ku's mind, a palm strike from a rank 5-grade emperor could kill even a divine king or a divine emperor, let alone a young divine marquis. His sword intent did contain a bit of heavenly might. However, the physical body of a human was weak. If this palm strike landed, their soul would fly away and their flesh would be smashed. Thank you, clan elder. Tai Ku smiled coldly and reached out to grab the divine halberd. His expression was cold and arrogant. However, just as the two of them turned around and were about to walk into the depths of the sea, a wisp of demonic aura suddenly rippled out from the place where the demonic aura was vast. At first, it was like a gust of wind, but in the blink of an eye, it turned into 100-meter-long black light that pierced through the clouds and enveloped Songming. Tai Ku and Tai Mu suddenly stopped in their tracks. Then, they turned around in shock and looked at the place where the palm strike landed. They saw that in the endless waves, there seemed to be a touch of green blooming. An extremely dense wave of vitality rippled out and spread out. Yi Sun stood behind Ling Tian, her jade-like hands gently pressing against the young man's back. Above his head, the shadow of a divine tree stood at the bottom of the sea and pierced the sky. The dense vitality made even Tai Ku feel a sense of fear from the bottom of his heart. At this moment, there were still traces of blood dripping from the corner of Ling Tian's mouth. Even his black robe was stained with blood. However, under the cover of the vitality, his injuries were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The power of Tao. I underestimated you. Tai Ku snorted coldly. The mockery in his eyes disappeared and was replaced by a touch of seriousness. With the strength of the two young men in front of him, in the entire sea, only the top few monstrous geniuses would be able to fight against them. With the two of them working together, with one attacking and the other defending, it was a perfect complement. Unfortunately, No matter how monstrous a heaven's favorite was, he was still a heaven's favorite. How could talent make up for the difference in cultivation levels? He hadn't used his full strength in the palm strike just now, and he hadn't even been serious. Villains always died from carelessness. It's your turn. Take my sword. In Ling Tian's eyes, a devilish intent suddenly surged. Immediately after, that pair of clear and deep eyes suddenly turned completely black. Even the sword intent that surrounded him revealed a demonic nature at this moment. This kind of aura was not like the might of a cultivation technique. It was more like a kind of nature that originated from the marrow and blood. Back then, Ling Xiao had left a wisp of sky demon qi in the Ling Tiandan Sea. The original intention was to make him believe that the real sky demon was actually Ling Tian himself. But even Ling Xiao had probably never imagined that at the peak of the Path of Swords, this young man that possessed the bearing of a sword immortal had actually perfectly fused this strand of devil insight and sword insight. Moreover, the immortal extermination sword in Ling Tian's hand was originally an evil weapon that contained a wisp of a mortal's resentment. Under all these coincidences, Ling Tian seemed to have walked a path that was completely different from the past sword immortals. He was both an immortal and a devil. With one sword strike, everything withered and the world became empty. 9 heaven-destroying swords, the third sword. Immortal slaying. Thousands of ripples suddenly appeared in the boundless sea. The immortal extermination sword in Ling Tian's hand suddenly released a vast amount of sky demon qi. Above his head, the ancient immortal shadow's eyes also flickered with a terrifying scarlet light. The originally elegant and otherworldly aura suddenly disappeared completely. What was left was a kind of heart-palpitating, murderous aura. It was as if at this moment, it was no longer an ancient immortal that occupied the 9 heavens, but a great demon that had just awakened. Boom! The demonic shadow descended, stepping through the void. The boundless sea instantly withered. Wherever the sword light passed, immortals and gods bowed, and heaven and earth would die. There was a loud demonic chant that disturbed one's mind, making one feel cold for no reason. There was only one sword left in heaven and earth, and this sword contained the infinite power to destroy the ancient times and destroy the 6 paths of reincarnation. A look of shock finally appeared on Tai Mu's face. Although he didn't know how a 17 or 18-year-old human youth could cultivate such a tragic sword move, he still didn't know. But at this moment, he had a vague feeling that this sword strike already had the power to kill an emperor. Boom! Demonic qi floated around Tai Mu, connecting heaven and earth. Above his head, a demonic shadow also appeared. It was a strange fish covered with scales all over its body. The demonic patterns on its back flickered with ancient vicissitudes, giving people a feeling that it was indestructible. Obviously, in the face of Ling Tian's sword strike, this Sea Clan God Emperor also used his most powerful technique. Roar! The demonic shadow roared at the sky, shaking the 9 heavens. The sword light finally fell from the sky, like the finger of an immortal demon, and like the beginning of the world, it slashed on the demonic shadow's head. Boom! A spiritual aura that was visible to the naked eye instantly swept across the boundless sea. The demonic radiance of the sword intent was like the destruction of the sea of stars and the collapse of the world, crushing all living creatures and reefs along the way into ashes. Even Tai Mu, who was standing behind Tai Mu, felt as if there were billions of sword radiances piercing through his body before the fear on his face disappeared. In a breath's time, he was cut into a bloody mist on the ground. Even the inherited treasure in his hand was completely shattered by this power. Only a wisp of his divine soul was left, clinging tightly to Tai Mu's back, trembling. "You're courting death." Tai Mu's face was ferocious, especially when he saw the cracks on the demonic shadow outside his body. One could imagine the anger in his heart. He was a 5th-grade divine emperor, a royal clan elder, but he was forced by a human youth repeatedly. Even the young master of the clan had been crushed to pieces under his protection. What a great humiliation! If I don't skin you alive today, I'm not Time Mu. Boundless demonic radiance bloomed in an instant. The terrifying pressure was like a giant hand that tightly gripped the entire sea. Time Mu was like a scorching sun, with a vast amount of blood energy gushing out. Ling Tian's face turned pale, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Even the bones in his body were emitting strange cracking sounds at this moment. Time Mu was right. The human body was indeed weak. If it weren't for Yi Sun-er, who was a great healer, constantly healing his internal injuries, Ling Tian would have died the moment the palm landed. Of course, even so, Ling Tian had luck and was protected by the heavenly way. No matter how dangerous it was, he wasn't someone who could be killed by a divine emperor of the oceanic species. Junior brother, I can't hold on any longer. Yi Sun-er's mouth was also bleeding. At this moment, the aura on her body had already withered to the extreme. However, both of them were divine overlords, and it was already a miracle that they could hold on until now. If news of this battle spread, Ling Tian's name would be known throughout the Xingzhou. Let's go. Yi Sun-er's eyes were burning with anxiety. Before they left, their grandfather had given them a divine talisman to save their lives. However, Ling Tian's personality was stubborn, and he cultivated the way of the sword. Therefore, he had set a rule with Yi Sun-er that he couldn't use the divine talisman unless he was in a life-and-death situation. He wanted to comprehend the way of the sword in a life-and-death situation. But now, it seemed like he was in a life-and-death situation. Yes. Ling Tian gritted his teeth, and blood stained his white teeth, revealing a hint of viciousness. However, just as Yi Sun-er's face lit up with joy and she held the divine talisman in her hand, a mocking laugh came from above the sea. Not Time Mu. Could it be that you want to be called Gang Dana? Chapter 756. Hearing the voice, Ling Tian and Yi Fan were pleasantly surprised. However, Tai Fan's eyes were gloomy. Before he could see the appearance of the person, he felt that time and space suddenly stagnated. A ray of black light fell from the top of his head. It seemed to have cut the world, the sea, and the yin and yang. It was like a demonic light that could destroy the world. Wherever it passed, the light was extinguished and all living things ceased to exist. An unknown and terrifying force gradually recovered. Thousands of strange phenomena appeared in front of Tai Fan. Immortals and gods were slain, great demons lowered their wings, and all the worlds were destroyed. Boom! In the end, the black light fell and slashed the demonic shadow outside of Tai Fan. The thousands of forces were shattered. A crisp shattering sound was heard, and Tai Fan, who was a fifth-grade martial emperor, was forced to retreat pathetically. He staggered, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Although this attack was a bit of a sneak attack, it could make a fifth-grade divine emperor so pathetically. It was obvious that the person's cultivation was also at the martial emperor realm. However, just as Tai Fan raised his head and looked at the dome of the sea, his eyes narrowed fiercely. Above his head, a white-robed figure slowly appeared. Heaven and earth instantly fell silent. In the sea, there seemed to be a celestial rhythm. Ling Xiao, who was dressed in white, was as handsome as jade. His dowel turned into endless illusions. As if a celestial god had descended, the green lotus divine beast appeared under his feet as he walked. What a young celestial! Even though Tai Fan had always looked down on the human race, when he saw this white-robed young man, he still felt frightened. Even in the entire sea, there was no one who could be compared to him. Brother, the demonic intent in Ling Tian's eyes dissipated, and even his cold face bloomed with a bright smile. Seeing this, Yi Sun-er frowned slightly. After hesitating for a while, she asked softly, Ling Tian, can I ask you a question? What? Ling Tian was stunned and turned to look at Yi Sun-er. Your brother and I are in danger at the same time. Who are you going to save? Sun-er, your question is boring. Your brother is invincible. Why is he in danger? There was a trace of displeasure in Ling Tian's voice, but Yi Sun he sighed softly. I said if you have the life Tao law, so you should be able to hold on for a while longer. Young man, who are you? In the sea curtain far away, Tai Fan's eyes were gloomy as he felt an inexplicable sense of unease. Although he couldn't see through the young man's cultivation, he just felt cold and wanted to shiver. How dare you injure my brother? You deserve to die. Ling Xiao snorted and descended from the sky, standing beside Ling Tian. Are you all right, brother? I'm fine. Ling Tian let out a dazzling smile. His teeth were stained with blood, and his bones were shattered. However, he did not feel any pain at all. Instead, he felt warmth and guilt. His brother had once again appeared when he was at death's door. In the past, Ling Tian thought that it was a coincidence, or that his brother was trying to humiliate him on purpose. But now, it seemed that he was clearly concerned about her. One coincidence, two coincidences? Do you think I'm a fool? It must be her brother who is secretly following her, protecting her, and encouraging her to move forward. Brother, you're just like that, burying all your love deep in your heart. I'm sorry to disappoint you again. I can't kill a fifth-grade divine emperor. I'm useless. A thick sense of guilt lingered in Ling Tian's heart. However, the stubbornness in his eyes became even more resolute and evil. Looking at the desolation in Ling Tian's eyes, Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes and opened his mouth slightly. However, he didn't say a word in the end. Damn, brother, do you really want to kill this Sea Tribe Divine Emperor? Are you getting too arrogant? Not to mention you. Even I might not be able to do it now. The Sea Tribe Divine Emperor in front of him was known for his defense. If Ling Xiao hadn't attacked him with his full strength, and I hadn't helped him, he might not have been able to break through his defense so easily. Of course, how could a fifth-grade Divine Emperor, who had no luck, be worthy of being killed by him personally? He could just put on an act to get a good impression of him. Wasn't it the son of Destiny's duty to fight for his life all day long? Elder, let's retreat. Tai Mu hid behind Tai Mu, revealing his big round head. His eyes were filled with fear. He's here. He's here. He's here. Brother? He was the human who liked to eat demons that the black-clothed young man had mentioned. From the looks of it, he did indeed look a little awesome. Leave. Tai Mu frowned and shook his head slightly. Elder, I order you. Take me away now. Otherwise, I'll punish you for betraying the tribe. Tai Mu was stunned, and he shouted angrily. The remaining power of Ling Tian's sword had shattered his body into pieces. Even if the clan elder's cultivation is terrifying and can crush these two human youths, who knows if the aftershock of their fight later will destroy my divine soul? You think I don't want to leave? Tai Mu gritted his teeth and looked at the tall figure in armor in the distance. Although the figure didn't emit any aura, it was still terrifying. For some reason, it made him feel terrified and hopeless. Do you think you can kill me with just a puppet? Childish. Tai Mu took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. The demonic aura around him spread out. However, as soon as he finished speaking, several figures stepped out of the void. All of them had ferocious looks on their faces. Gulp. Destroy your fleshly body. Ling Xiao waved his hand. Xiong Huan and the others immediately stepped out and pounced on Tai Mu. Young man, you're not righteous. First, you ambushed me, and now you want to gang up on me. You, boom. Before Tai Zun's voice died away, the void in front of him suddenly crumbled. Xiong Huan smashed his fist down and almost shattered the entire sea curtain into nothingness. Childish. Ling Xiao snorted and didn't even look at Tai Mu. I'm a villain. You expect me to be righteous with you? If it weren't for plundering fate, toying with the children of destiny, or winning the favor of the women of destiny, I wouldn't even bother to swing my sword. Why do you think I have so many servants? Brother, that person seems to be related to the young master of the Xian Turtle clan. The injuries on Ling Tian's body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yi Sun took out a few pills from her chinquin bag and swallowed them. The dim spiritual light around her gradually surged. One had to admit that the life Tao law was indeed very fragrant. As long as one didn't die, one's health would be full. The young master of the Xian turtle clan, the #1 prodigy of the sea region. The corners of Ling Zhao's mouth curled up into a smile as he looked up at Tai Mu, who was hiding in the dark. Yes, master. Xiaobo nodded slightly, his figure suddenly vanishing on the spot. At this moment, a spiritual talisman lit up in Tai Mu's hand. He shouted in panic, "Brother, save me. I was killed in your territory." However, the moment he finished speaking, the scene in front of him seemed to have frozen for a moment. Immediately after, it was as if someone had grabbed him by the neck and lifted him up in the air, bringing him in front of Ling Xiao and the others. Ling Xiao raised his hand and took the spiritual talisman from Tai Mu's hand. His eyes were full of playfulness. "Where are you?" A low voice came from the other side of the spiritual talisman. "I'm waiting for you at the end of the sea region." Ling Xiao smiled gently and crushed the spiritual talisman. He turned to look at Tai Mu. Young master, when I saw you, I felt a surge of emotions. Only someone like you can be called invincible in the world." Tai Mu forced a smile on his face. However, the moment he finished speaking, he saw a dazzling light flash in the eyes of the young man in front of him. After that, he felt his body become light and completely lost consciousness. Boom! No! Tai Mu let out a desperate roar and instantly revealed his true body. However, his cultivation was 2 realms lower than Xionghuan, now that he was surrounded by Xing Shun and the others. Although it had only been a few seconds, his life-saving spiritual treasures had been destroyed. Seeing Ling Xiao nod, Xionghuan smashed his fist down. It was like a meteor falling from the sky and directly smashed Tai Mu's head. A strong smell of blood spread, and the sea region within thousands of miles turned red. Ling Zhao's eyes suddenly had the moon in them. Chapter 757. There was a sudden burst of soul power between heaven and earth. Tai Mu saw a black moon floating in front of him, and the whole world fell into darkness. At the end of his sight, there seemed to be a black soul palace standing tall. There were demonic runes on it, and there were thousands of strange phenomena. It faintly revealed an indestructible, overbearing aura. Above the soul palace, there was a demonic sun shining with black light, devouring all light. It was like a demonic origin that could destroy the 9 heavens. It made one feel despair at a glance. Boom! However, Tai Mu still couldn't figure out how a young man could have such a terrifying demonic creature. Above the demonic sun, there was a sudden burst of black light. Then, as if heaven's might had descended, it enveloped him. The terrifying suppressive power almost crushed his divine soul in a breath's time. It was devoured completely. Boom! The divine soul power of a 5th-grade divine emperor instantly made Ling Zhao's soul palace rise by a few feet. However, there's still a big gap to reach the 9th-grade divine emperor realm. Brother, Ling Tian looked at Ling Xiao in shock. Although there was no aura coming from the latter, he somehow felt that his brothers seemed to have become stronger again. Let's go. I'll bring you to a good place. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and walked toward the Dragon Transformation Sea. The Xian Turtle Clan? Since the young master of the Xian Turtle Clan was the #1 genius of the sea area, and the Heavenly Alligator's ancestral land had appeared, it was impossible for him not to join in the fun. When the time came, he would kill them all. No matter how smelly my little brother is, only I can beat him up. Whoever beats him will die. Deep in the sea area, the 3 of them walked side by side. According to the agreement between Ling Xiao and Yi Zhan, the 2-day deadline was up. It was time to open the ancestral land. Young master. On the shore of the Dragon Transformation Sea, Yi Zhan hid behind a reef and waved at Ling Xiao. Behind him, the Flood Dragon human ancestor and clan master stood quietly. Further away, several Flood Dragon human races' emperor gods looked solemn, and their auras were surging. Apparently, they were ready to die. Young Master Ijan. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and looked at the group of god emperors of Flood Dragon Human with a warm expression. With the strength of these people, if they rashly launched a sneak attack, even Ziyin would feel an extreme headache. However, it was a pity. I'm afraid none of you will return from this trip to the Sea Emperor's palace. Of course, Ling Xiao's actions were not just to give Ziyin a huge gift so that she could kill the #1 divine emissary in the future. To be honest, Ling Xiao had always been wary of this woman. If your performance is too weak, she might not even give you the chance to join hands with her. The premise of cooperation was always a win-win situation. Why did the weak have to be treated as equals? This trip of the Flood Dragon Humans is a form of intimidation. I, Ling Xiao, can toy with all living beings in the palm of my hand. It was also a safeguard. In this way, regardless of whether Ziyin had other thoughts in her heart, she wouldn't be able to stop Ijan, a villain who would do anything to achieve his goal. If Crocodile died in her hands, how could Ling Xiao control her? Young Master, everything is ready. Now it's up to you. This trip to the ancestral land would depend on you. Ijan bowed, but his eyes glanced at Ling Tian and Ao. This is my younger brother. He will be going to the ancestral land with me this time. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Suddenly, a smile bloomed on his face. The key to this trip is not me, but all of you of the Flood Dragon human race. If you can't hold Ziyin back, what's the use of my methods? Oof. Young Master, don't worry. This time, the 6 god emperors of my Flood Dragon human race are all out. There are also a few vassal god emperors of other races heading towards the Sea Emperor's palace. Ao snorted coldly. He looked at Ling Xiao with a hint of wariness in his eyes. Although, he also felt that this plan was meticulous and reasonable. But he felt inexplicably uneasy. However, to truly unify the sea region and become the royal race above all races, Ijan had to return to the Heavenly Alligator's ancestral land. Therefore, whether there was a conspiracy or not, the Flood Dragon human race had no other choice. Besides, Ziyin was indeed very strong. She was so strong that she could suppress the entire sea region. In particular, her attainments in array formations had reached a breathtaking level. But with several god emperors attacking together, how many people in the entire sea region could stop them? Even if they couldn't kill Ziyin in the end, as long as they could delay her for a few days, waiting for their young master to enter the ancestral land, it would be a great success. With Ao's son and the other strength, wouldn't it be easy to leave a few scapegoats behind? Otherwise, do you think I asked those vassal god emperors of the Sea Clan to do something? At that time, they only needed to return to the Dragon Transformation Sea and hide in the ancestral land. So what if Ziyin was a 9th grade god emperor? Young Master Ijan would lead us to glory in the end. Great! Ling Xiao clapped and sighed softly. He looked at Ijan and smiled. Beep. The Son of Destiny strongly approves of the villain's behavior. The courting of death has begun. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. Everyone, I'll be counting on you this time. Ijan bowed, but Ao looked hesitant. Young Master, do you really not need to leave 2 people to accompany you to the ancestral land? No need. Ijan shook his head slightly. How could he not know everyone's concerns? Ling Xiao is a human after all. He's not one of us, so he must have a different heart. But are you blind? Don't you see young Master's Dao aura, the typical light of righteousness? What evil thoughts can he have? As for other threats, as long as Ziyin didn't come, Ijan didn't care about the other sea clans. In that case, we'll go. Ao took a deep breath and finally glared at Ling Xiao before turning and flying toward the distant sea region. The 6 god emperors disappeared without a trace. The Dragon Transformation Sea suddenly fell into a dead silence. Young Master, let's go. Ijan turned to look at Ling Xiao, only to see the latter nodding slightly. Young Master, you can release the approximate location of your ancestral land. This all right. Ijan hesitated but didn't say anything in the end. My ancestral land is hidden in the Dead Sea region in the extreme north of the Endless Sea region. Dead Sea? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly. From the first day he entered the sea region, he knew that there was a forbidden area in the depths of the Endless Sea called the Dead Sea. There was a great demon entrenched in it, and whoever entered would die. But now it seemed that this news was most likely deliberately spread by Ziyin or the Heavenly Alligator Clan. The so-called Great Demon was just an excuse to cover up the hidden secret realm within. I got it. Ling Tian, young Master Ijan, you go to the Dead Sea first. I'll arrange for my men to spread the news, and I'll be there soon. Ling Xiao turned his head, glanced at the depths of the Dragon Transformation Sea, and said in a deep voice, "All right." Ling Tian nodded gently and turned to look at Ijan. "Young Master Ijan, please?" "Young Master, you have to hurry up. AOE and the others can't hold on for long." Ijan's expression turned cold. Seeing Ling Xiao's indifferent expression, he didn't dare to say more and walked away with Ling Tian. "Come out." Ling Xiao smiled indifferently with a touch of gentleness at the corner of his mouth. Chapter 758. Master. The originally tranquil sea suddenly rippled with light. Many figures descended from the sky and stood quietly in front of Ling Xiao. Duan Tianya, who was standing at the front, had a serious expression. His rank 7 arch aura rippled quietly. Although Ling Xiao had killed a few elders of Sky Border City and almost all the disciples, there were still a few emperor gods who had survived. The Dragon Transformation Sea was the land of the flood dragon humans. Duan Tianya did not know why his master had asked him to lead everyone here. However, he instinctively felt a little uneasy. Tianya City could not afford to offend the sea region's royal family. However, he did not dare to disobey his master's orders. Fold Shadow spread the news that a mystic realm has appeared in the Dead Sea domain. Ling Xiao held a bright golden talisman in his hand and said calmly, although the Dead Sea was only a corner of the sea domain, it was still vast and boundless. First, he would attract all the sea race prodigies. When the heavenly crocodile's ancestral land appeared, he would make some appropriate movements. Then, they would be able to find him. Of course, he could not make it seem too deliberate. As for these Sky Border City experts, the Flood Dragon humans had countless experts. Even if all the God Thearchs were to come out, AOE and the others would definitely leave a few experts behind to protect them. Moreover, the Dragon Transformation Sea was tens of thousands of miles wide. It would not be a matter of a day or two. Now that Ling Xiao had to go to the Heavenly Crocodile's ancestral land, he did not have time to stay here. Xiong Huan and the others would definitely not leave Ling Xiao's side. After all, this sea domain was full of dangers. Without Xiong Huan around, they would not be at ease. "Let's go." Ling Xiao took the lead and walked toward the depths of the Dragon Transformation Sea. Ling Xiao had seen the Flood Dragon humans' protective array that day. Although it was magical, even Ziyin was afraid of it. However, to Ling Xiao, who had the boundary-breaking talisman, it was not worth mentioning. Of course, Ao Sun and the others dared to leave at ease because they were confident in this ancient array. But no one would have thought that there was a cheat in this world. When everyone appeared outside the Crystal Palace, they saw a golden light array descending from the sky. It was like an ancient bell enveloping the entire ancient palace. Formation markings were formed on it, while numerous phenomena rose and fell in succession, causing it to be vast and miraculous. Sky Border City Lord? Why have you come to my Dragon Transformation Sea? Below the golden array, some of the Flood Dragon clan's experts narrowed their eyes when they saw several figures suddenly descend. Duan Tianya's name was known throughout the entire sea region. In particular, the heavenly flame in his hand was even more famous, and it was feared by the oceanic species. However, a mere human emperor god, even if he had some tricks up his sleeves, how would he dare to provoke the Flood Dragon human tribe? But wasn't his appearance a little too coincidental? Why did this Duan Tianya lead a group of people to invade right after our clan's experts left? Could it be that there's a spy in my flood dragon humanoid race? I'm here to borrow your heads. Duan Tianya sneered, but there was some confusion between his brows. Running to the flood dragon human tribe to act tough would definitely end up in a miserable state. However, if he didn't act tough, his master would be unhappy. F***CK. What can I do? I'm just a soul slave. Why would I be so scared? How dare you? Duan Tianya, do you really think you're someone important? Do you know the consequences of provoking the flood dragon human tribe? Several flood dragon human tribe members walked out of the Crystal Palace one after another. However, most of them were god kings, and there wasn't even a single god emperor among them. Oh, what consequences? A gentle laugh suddenly came from behind them. Then, a tall figure in white walked out slowly and stood in front of Duan Tianya. After seeing who it was, the leading flood dragon human tribe's expert, who was a 9th grade god king, was stunned. Then, he shouted angrily, "It's you. I knew it. You're up to no good, human." All the demons had seen Ling Xiao cause trouble in the flood dragon human tribe. This god king also knew about the great plan of the serpent human race. So, this human youth actually had such an idea, luring the tiger away from the mountain, then eating the tiger's mountain? F***CK. However, I'm afraid you've made a mistake. With the tribe defense ancient formation set up by our flood dragon human tribe's ancestor, even if the Sea Emperor himself came, what could he do? Master, this ancient formation, Duan Tianya was also confused. Although Ling Xiao had a few powerful subordinates, this terrifying formation was terrifying. However, the formation in front of him was extremely terrifying. It was 100 times more mysterious than the one in Sky Border City. Not to mention that there were many experts in the Flood Dragon human tribe. This formation alone wasn't something that anyone could break. Master? Duan Tianya, you're a famous expert in the Endless Sea. How could you recognize a young man as your master? Wait until the experts of my tribe return. I'll kill everyone in Sky Border City. The Flood Dragon human tribe's god, King, snorted coldly, but there wasn't any panic on his face. He was confident in the tribe defense ancient formation. As long as the ancestor and the others returned from the Sea Emperor Palace, none of these people would be spared. Your ancestor won't be coming back. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. Then, under the dumbfounded gazes of countless experts of the Flood Dragon human tribe, he suddenly took out 4 silver pearls from his universe ring and walked toward the ancient formation. Arrogant. Ling Xiao, no matter what you're planning, just because of what you said, my Flood Dragon human tribe will destroy your divine soul and prevent you from entering the reincarnation cycle. But, just as the Flood Dragon human tribe's god king finished speaking, Ling Xiao's palm suddenly pierced through the ancient formation and casually threw the silver pearls over. What? What'd I just see? He actually broke our tribe defense ancient formation? The Flood Dragon human tribe's god king looked at each other and rubbed their eyes. At this moment, the silver pearls suddenly bloomed with bright flames. Then, a wisp of dark green smoke spread out. Before anyone could react, they turned into a pool of blood on the ground. Their divine souls were destroyed. Gulp. Oh no, this mist is poisonous. Let me out. I want to go out. It's so scary. Help. The formation that was supposed to protect everyone had now become a shackle that restrained them, especially the people outside the palace. They didn't even have time to escape before they died mysteriously. Seeing this, Duan Tianya swallowed his saliva. What a familiar scene. Back then, his Sky Border City was destroyed just like this. In the Flood Dragon human tribe's territory, screams could be heard incessantly. When the poisonous mist dissipated, Ling Xiao tore open a corner of the formation and led Duan Tianya and the others into it. Kill! Ling Xiao waved his hand. The god emperors immediately emitted a bright spiritual light and charged toward the Crystal Palace. The Flood Dragon human tribe's strongest was only a 9th grade god king. Facing a group of human god emperors, they naturally couldn't resist at all. In just a short moment, There wasn't a single trace of life in the entire palace. Ling Xiao casually captured a divine marquis, flood dragon human. Soul light flickered in his eyes. Suddenly, a playful smile appeared on his face. From the beginning, Ling Xiao had never heard of the birth of a prodigy in the flood dragon human tribe. Given the ancient tribe's foundation, this obviously didn't make sense. From the divine marquis flood dragon human tribe's soul consciousness, Ling Xiao knew that 60 years ago, a peerless demon was born in the flood dragon human tribe. His bloodline actually showed signs of atavism. He was immediately appointed as the young master by AOE. However, about 10 years ago, this young master of the flood dragon human tribe suddenly disappeared. It was said that he went to the north border demon tribe to train. Chapter 759. The flood dragon human's ancestral awakening was definitely the dragon race's bloodline. Even a wisp of it was terrifying in the Holy Continent. Although Ling Xiao didn't know whether this person was the heavenly mandate, it was clear that there was a story behind this young master of the flood dragon human race. Go and kill all the demons in the Dragon Transformation Sea. While you're at it, collect all their treasures. Ling Xiao waved his hand and walked toward the depths of the Crystal Palace. Behind him, Duan Tianya and the others bowed and left. Ziyan probably wouldn't die. Since all the experts of the Flood Dragon human race had died in the Ocean Emperor Palace, Ziyan would definitely come to the Dragon Transformation Sea and collect the treasures of the Flood Dragon human race. However, when she arrived, she would find an empty Dragon Transformation Sea. Was it a surprise? Was it unexpected? Following the divine overlord of the Flood Dragon human race, Ling Xiao came to the deepest part of the Crystal Palace and saw an ancient stone hall. Before he even entered, Ling Xiao could already feel the turbulent spiritual energy fluctuations inside. It was clear that this was where the Flood Dragon human race hid their treasures. With 1,000 years of inheritance, they were the royal race of the sea region. Their treasures were naturally terrifying. And now, this ancient sea clan was inexplicably destroyed by Ling Xiao. In fact, he didn't lose a single subordinate, nor did he spend much effort. As for whether Duan Tianya and the others would die, Duan Tianya wouldn't die for the time being, but the remaining god emperors would die because they didn't have soul seals in their soul seas. Boom! Ling Xiao struck out with his palm, and a lightning sun instantly condensed and shattered the stone hall's ancient door. An extremely dense spiritual pressure suddenly descended. Even with Ling Xiao's temperament, he felt an indescribable shock at this moment. At this moment, there were countless spirit treasures and spirit materials densely arranged within the 300-meter-tall stone hall. Although it was messy, the number of spirit treasures was enough to make one click their tongue. Boom! As Ling Xiao waved his hand, a wisp of spirit qi quietly drifted away. The treasures that originally covered the entire stone hall instantly disappeared without a trace. Within the realm, Ling Xiao stood on top of the Sky Palace. In front of him, Phoenix Rouge, Han Qingxiu, and the others were staring at the countless treasures on the ground. Young master, did you empty the Sea Emperor Palace? The Phoenix Rouge swallowed its saliva and immediately pounced on the countless spirit treasures and rolled over. What did it mean to be rich enough to rival the imperial court? With the number of spirit treasures and pills in Ling Xiao's possession, it would not take him much effort to create a super force that stood above the Shenzhou continent in 10 years. Of course, the number of experts was not enough to overthrow the saint. After all, the shackles of heaven and earth could not be broken. In the current Shenzhou, no one could step into the Yuan Venerate. The Divine Master was a supreme existence. You can choose for yourselves. If you like them, you can keep them. As for the rest, Ruge, you can distribute them to those who need them. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently and turned to leave. Young master, Phoenix Rouge suddenly stood up and called out to Ling Xiao. What's wrong? Since you're back, take a look at these clothes and see if they fit. Phoenix Rouge smiled mysteriously and clapped its jade-like hands. Below the Sky Palace, two figures suddenly flew over. Both of them had sinister ghost masks on their faces. One of them had a silver mask, while the other had a bronze mask. The clothes they were wearing were slightly different. Although they were both wearing black robes, one of them had blood-colored auspicious clouds embroidered on the bottom, while the other had a medicinal cauldron totem on his chest. Young Master, our faction will be named after the Supreme Demon Palace. You will be the Demon Master and compete with the Divine Master. The Divine Emperor Elders can wear blood-colored cloud robes, while the disciples of the Medicine Hall and the other two halls will wear plain robes embroidered with the totem of each hall. Phoenix Rouge walked over to the two of them and took off the mask on one of their faces. Young Master, please take a look. There is an explosive bead at the corner of this mask. It contains a trace of sky poison. Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly, but he quickly understood what Phoenix Rouge was thinking. The Supreme Demon Palace was the enemy of the saint. All the experts of the Demon Palace were taboo in Shenzhou. Once they fell into the hands of the saint, their souls would be searched and they would suffer a fate worse than death. And this sky poison pill was the key to proving their loyalty and freeing them from their predicament. Not bad. My song. You are becoming more and more like a villain's woman. Moreover, your blood-colored cloud black robes really suit my identity of fighting against 7 people. Master, I plan to announce the rules of the Demon Palace in the next few days and set up a battle ranking. The ranking will be based on strength, and the spirit treasures and pills will be distributed according to the ranking. Currently, there are 3 halls in the Demon Palace: the Medicine Hall, the Battle Hall, and the Dark Hall. Han Zhan, Ning and I will temporarily take the position of Hall Master respectively. Phoenix Rouge waved its hand and ordered the 2 people in front of it to leave. Xing Shen and Hua Hong will be the guest elders of the Demon Palace. Xiong Huan will be the Demon General of the Demon Palace. Ling Xiao nodded and looked at Phoenix Rouge with admiration. With her around, Ling Xiao could finally focus on conquering the world. As expected, behind a successful man, there would always be many outstanding women. Why did you choose Han Zhan, Ning and the others as Hall Masters? Ling Xiao looked at Phoenix Rouge meaningfully. In fact, he had a more suitable candidate for the Dark Hall Master. Bai Ling. As the successor of the Blood Soul Temple, Bai Ling was undoubtedly more skilled in assassination. As for Phoenix Rouge, she was more suitable to stand at the top and take charge of the overall situation. This is just a temporary decision. I have not made it public yet. If you feel that it is not suitable, you can change it. Phoenix Rouge was suddenly taken aback, and a trace of panic flashed in its eyes. In particular, the deep meaning in Ling Xiao's eyes made her feel an inexplicable fear. Although Ling Xiao said that he would leave the matters of the realm to her to manage, he did not say that she could make all the decisions. Suddenly, Phoenix Rouge felt that she had overstepped her boundaries. Tell me your reason. Ling Xiao smiled faintly, without the slightest hint of joy or anger on his face. The system had determined that the Lady of Destiny had already submitted, so Ling Xiao was not worried that she would have any selfish motives. However, Phoenix Rouge was a transmigrated model and was full of schemes. Although her vision was higher than many protagonists, what Ling Xiao wanted to do now was to step into the 9 heavens again and fight against the immortals. His opponent had never been the Shenzhou Divine Master or even a master of the Azure Sky World, but the ancient gods who occupied the 9 heavens. Therefore, he could not afford to make any mistakes, not even the slightest bit of carelessness. He admired Feng Ruge very much. He admired her temperament, cautiousness, and strange thoughts. However, admiration did not mean connivance. On the contrary, it was precisely because Phoenix Rouge was different and could be of great use that Ling Xiao wanted to teach her some rules. Han Zhan and Ning Er's talents are obvious. They will definitely become emperors in less than 5 years. Moreover, giving them some pressure appropriately can make them grow faster. Feng Rouge took a deep breath, and her expression was unprecedentedly solemn. That's right. The position of Dark Hall Master will be empty for now. You will be in charge of the entire realm for the time being. In the end, Ling Xiao nodded with a smile, turned around, and was about to leave. Now, it seemed that the forces in his hands could be said to be showing the first signs of demonic power. The Supreme Demon Palace? Actually, I still think that the Sky Demon is more domineering. However, the words Sky Demon were taboo in the Nine Heavens, so Ling Xiao did not dare to be so ostentatious. Yes, young master. Phoenix Rouge's eyes flashed with surprise. Her originally nervous expression immediately relaxed, and she even felt grateful. Does young master approve of me? However, at this moment, she also understood that no matter what decision she made in the future, she had to report it to young master first. I, Ling Xiao, am not bragging. My ability to control people is just as outstanding as my ability to control women. Chapter 760. You can distribute the elixirs and treasures that I gave you. I want to see them all reach the Divine King realm in 3 months. Ling Xiao raised his head and looked at the distant sky. Black robe with blood clouds and a silver-copper ghost mask. Soon, his disguise would become a nightmare of all the experts in this world. The more mysterious something was, the easier it was to be feared. One day, when the experts of the Devil Palace took off the ghost mask, this world would be ruled by the Devil Palace. Yes, young master. Phoenix Rouge nodded slightly. Seeing Ling Xiao's figure disappear, she heaved a sigh of relief. Only now did she realize that she still couldn't see through this young man. Even though the two of them had gone through life and death, separated, reunited, and fought against thousands of enemies, she still couldn't see through him. She still couldn't see through him and had a feeling that she was completely under his control. Even a glance from him was enough to make Feng Rouge feel fear and panic. She wanted to please him and make him satisfied and happy. However, she had never seen her young master's emotions fluctuate too much. On his face, there was always only a gentle and indifferent expression, incomparably handsome. No matter if it was the desperate situation of death or the joy of bearing the sky. Even when the world was his enemy, he smiled back. With a beauty in his arms, it was just a storm. Young master, what kind of person are you? Suddenly, a gust of wind blew in the endless sea. Countless young masters of the royal family and sea-race geniuses walked out of their clans and headed towards the deepest part of the sea. It was rumored that there was a great demon hidden at the end of the sea. Even the Sea Emperor Yin wouldn't easily step into this place. The Death Sea was a forbidden area for the sea race experts. However, in recent days, there was a rumor that an ancient mystic realm would appear in the Death Sea, and there would be supreme treasures in the mystic realm. Facing this temptation, almost all the sea race geniuses couldn't resist. The path of cultivation was about accumulating fortune and accumulating one's foundation. The greater the danger, the more heaven-defying the fortune. In just a day's time, the originally quiet Dead Sea had suddenly become lively. In the depths of the Death Sea, Ling Xiao, Yizhan, and Ling Tian stood in front of a black ancient tablet with their hands behind their backs. The ancient tablet was over 10 meters tall, and there were some ancient and obscure diagrams carved on it. It was filled with a sorrowful aura. However, at this moment, there was still a strand of golden light circulating on the ancient steel, giving birth to countless abnormal signs. This should be the method that Yin had set up here. Young master, this is the entrance to the heavenly alligator's ancestral land. Yizhan's eyes flickered with excitement. 300 years. He hadn't returned to the ancestral land for 300 years. Now, the entrance to the ancestral grounds was right before his eyes, but the strand of energy of the formation that enveloped it was like a natural chasm that completely obstructed his footsteps. There is indeed a formation. Ling Xiao nodded indifferently. He extended his hand and touched the edge of the ancient monument. Feeling the terrifying lightning energy flowing on it, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. Calculating the time, the Flood Dragon humanoid race's experts should be close to the Ocean Emperor Palace. What he needed to do was to wait for all the geniuses of the various clans in the sea area to arrive. Only then would his painstaking plan not go to waste. You expect me to go from house to look for chives? There was no such thing. It was too slow. Find a secret realm, lure them all here, and then have a good meal. Isn't it delicious? When I come out of the heavenly alligator's ancestral land, it's time to talk to the first divine envoy about life and send him to the western paradise. Since you want a good fortune, I will give you a great fortune that will allow you to ascend to the western paradise. Young master, how is it? Can you break it? Ijan looked solemn. Beside him, Ling Tian's eyes flickered with coldness. Are you looking down on my brother? Huh? Ijan frowned slightly, but when he saw the sword intent that suddenly surrounded Ling Tian's body, he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. F***CK. This young man's cultivation is at most in the divine overlord realm. But why do I feel that I can't defeat him? No, of course I believe in you, young master. Ijan shook his head. Ling Xiao never looked at him. Suddenly, lightning rushed into the sky outside his body, illuminating the area within 100 miles as bright as day. Boom! He struck out his palm, and all the lightning in the sky gathered in his palm, colliding with the ancient tablet's array intent with a loud bang, emitting a harsh buzzing sound. With such momentum, as long as one was not blind, one would be able to see it. Everyone from the Sea Clan, this is all I can help you with. So, as long as you wait quietly for half a day, all the prodigies in the Dead Sea will rush over. Protect me. It's a little tricky. Ling Zhao's tone was inexplicably solemn. Ijan finally stopped hiding his strength. His eyes were filled with battle intent, and a divine king's aura pressed down on him. He stood behind Ling Xiao like a loyal guard. Young master, just focus on breaking the array. If anyone dares to disturb you, I will crush them into pieces. Look, what is that? The ancient site has appeared. Let's go. In the Dead Sea, countless prodigies of the Sea Clan raised their heads in horror, looking at the lightning in the depths of the sea. Their eyes flickered with excitement. In particular, this place was dark all year round, without a trace of light. The lightning was like a bright light that led them to paradise. It stood in the sky and illuminated their path of death. After all, hunting required outstanding prey in order to display one's true skills. We don't pretend to be pretentious. We just hunt down those who like to show off and maintain the stability of this world. Whoosh, whoosh. The sound of the sea breaking rang out. An endless demonic aura swept across the world. At this moment, the wind and clouds surged in the endless sea, and hundreds of feet of waves surged. At the same time, in front of the Ocean Emperor Palace, Ao, E, and Ao Sun stood with their hands behind their backs. Behind them, a group of Flood Dragon Clan God Emperors also looked solemn. This trip was related to whether the Flood Dragon Clan could usher in true glory. After all, the Heavenly Crocodile Clan had declined for thousands of years. But no matter how much they declined, the ancestors of this clan were inextricably linked to the ancient gods. Just this identity alone was a supreme existence to any Shenzhou demon clan. Now that Ijan had come out and suffered all kinds of hardships, Sun did not look down on him at all. Instead, he was more convinced that Ijan might be the true destiny of this era. The general trend of the world had to be divided after a long time. Although the Saint sect was in charge of the world now, it was stable. But for the Demon Clan and the Sea Clan, behind this stability was endless humiliation. Ijan's appearance was like a bright light that reignited their hope. His elixir sea was dug out, and his immortal source was snatched. Not only did Ijan not die, but he also awakened his primordial bloodline. What kind of providence was this? What kind of creation was this? A saint of the human clan once said that when the heavens were about to bestow a great responsibility on a person, it would first torment his will, tire his muscles and bones, and starve his body and skin. It seemed that young master Ijan was about to ascend to the heavens. Ancestor, Ao, he turned his head, and looked at Ao Sun beside him. Although both of their cultivation levels were at the 8th stage of the Divine Emperor realm, the ancestor had extraordinary experience and had experienced a lot. The major matters of the clan were all decided by him alone. Or rather, Ao Yi's heart was still filled with a strong sense of uneasiness. He had always had a feeling that the fate of the Flood Dragon clan would be completely changed because of this trip. The higher one's cultivation level, the deeper one's understanding of the heavenly Tao. That was why some supreme experts in ancient times chose to live in seclusion all year round despite having heaven-defying cultivation levels. The destiny of the heavens was just to clear away the evil. But if there were no more evil, wasn't the so-called destiny of the heavens the opposite of the heavenly Tao? In the unseen world, reincarnation never stopped. But throughout history, how many people were immortal and indestructible? Let's go. Since we've chosen this path, there's no way out. Any more hesitation will only restrain us. Ao Sun sighed softly and took a step forward, heading towards the Sea Emperor Palace first. Chapter 761. Suddenly, a demonic might descended from outside the Sea Emperor's palace. It was as if the 9 heavens and the sea of stars were crashing down on the mortal world. Instantly, a corner of the majestic ancient palace was crushed. As for Ao Sun and the others, they descended from the sky and stood in the ancient palace. However, the moment the members of the Flood Dragon tribe landed, their eyes flickered with surprise. Was it so easy? How'd they get in so quickly? It was rumored that there were not many experts in the Sea Emperor's palace, but it was heavily guarded. Although Zi Yin was the Sea Emperor, in the end, she was only one person. She did not have any backing. If it wasn't for her astonishing strength, she would not have been able to sit on the Sea Emperor's throne. However, this Zi Yin possessed astonishing means. She could use the Heaven Transformation formation to kill all her enemies. Thus, the Sea Emperor's palace could be said to be a tiger's den in the eyes of the Sea Region's clans. However, how did they get in? There was not even a trace of the power of a spirit formation circulating around them. All of a sudden, everyone felt that there was a conspiracy going on. You all actually dare to come. Just as Ao Sun and the others were filled with fear, a golden light suddenly flowed out from the corner of the ancient palace. Following that, an incomparably terrifying power of a spirit formation enveloped the entire palace. At this moment, a graceful figure appeared in the center of the palace. She was sitting on a golden chair in the middle of the palace. On that seductive and beautiful face, there was a faint trace of astonishment and playfulness. Zian? Ao Sun and the others narrowed their eyes. They were already panicking. At this moment, he seemed to have sensed that he had completely lost connection with the talisman in his hand. In fact, even the spiritual energy in his body was suppressed to a very weak state. If even he, a rank 8 martial emperor, was in such a state, one could imagine how weak the remaining Flood Dragon's god emperors would be. Ancestor Ao Sun, you've led a group of people here to forcibly barge into my Sea Emperor's palace. May I know why you've come? The smile on Ziyan's face was bright and enchanting. However, only those who truly understood her knew that what was hidden beneath this enchanting smile was true killing intent. The Sea Emperor Ziyan liked to kill people with a smile. This was the common knowledge of the Sea race. We have no intention of offending you. We've only come here to pay our Sea race's sovereign a visit. Ziyan, what are you doing here? Ao Sun fiercely clenched his teeth and forced a smile. Oh, visit me? Ziyan stood up and took a step forward. A torrential aura instantly pressed down. Other than Ao Sun and Ao E, the 2 8th grade god emperors, the remaining god emperors from the Flood Dragon clan collapsed on the ground. Their eyes were filled with despair and shock. Ancestor, why did you destroy a corner of my Ocean Emperor palace? The smile on Ziyan's face grew even wider. With a light wave of her hand, strands of formation energy circulated around her body, forming countless phenomena. Originally, she didn't believe Ling Xiao's words at all. She also didn't believe that the Flood Dragon tribe would have the guts to act so presumptuously in her sea god's palace. But as a villain, especially now that Yizhan had reappeared in the sea, Ziyin had to be cautious. Although it was just a few god emperors of the Flood Dragon human race, she did not care about them at all. However, if she could get rid of them effortlessly, why should she go through so much trouble? This formation was called the Immortal Trapping Formation, and it was one of her strongest techniques. Anyone who entered the formation, as long as their cultivation base was lower than hers, would have their spiritual power sealed. Ao Sun was very strong, but in this formation, she was the absolute ruler who determined the life and death of all living beings. Zi Huang, this is a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. Ao Sun smiled embarrassedly. There was nothing but bitterness in his eyes. Especially when he saw Ziyan's calm expression, he had a faint feeling that she seemed to know that they were coming. A misunderstanding? But once a demon makes a mistake, it has to bear the consequences. Ziyan sneered and suddenly stretched out her hand. An invisible divine power seemed to descend from the sky, and it actually crushed those god emperors into minced meat. A thick smell of blood spread out. Ao Sun and Ao Yi's faces had already turned completely gloomy. If you hide in the dragon transformation sea, I really won't be able to get rid of you completely for the time being. Ao Sun, do you really think you can get everything you want by protecting Yizhan? Ziyin shook her head. She walked lightly, and there seemed to be a demon shadow behind her, revealing an everlasting and domineering aura. Speak. What method did that human youth use to deceive you to come here? What? At that moment, Ao Sun and Ao Yi were stunned. An extremely cold feeling suddenly emerged in their hearts. We were deceived? Damn it, that human youth? Ling Xiao. It turned out that he was in cahoots with Ziyin. Young Lord Yizhan, you're going to die. You are indeed in cahoots. Ao Sun's expression was desolate as he sighed softly. Sigh. Zi Huang, I have to remind you that what that young man is after is not our mere flood dragon human tribe. Be careful that you will also be harmed by him if you scheme against him. After all, Ao Sun and Ao Yi had no chance of surviving today. As such, if they could sow discord between the two of them before they died, perhaps young Lord Yizhan and the tribe would still have a chance to survive. Hee, ancestor, you don't have to worry about this. Although you have avoided the informants I sent, let me guess, Yizhan and the others should be heading for the heavenly crocodile ancestral land, right? Ziyin smiled playfully, and lightning suddenly blossomed in her eyes. The formation she left at the end of the Dead Sea was not simple. Even if an 8th grade divine emperor rashly touched it, he would definitely be trapped in it and even die. Ling Xiao had many tricks up his sleeves, and his scheming was top-notch. However, how could an 18 or 19-year-old youth enter the divine emperor realm, even if his talent was heaven-defying? They might be able to break the first formation. In other words, Ziyin had already tampered with it. As long as someone was proficient in the formation Dao, or had some understanding of the power of lightning, they would eventually be able to find the flaw. With Ziyan's cultivation, although she had only seen Ling Xiao once, she could feel a surge of lightning intent from him that was of the same origin as hers. However, they would never imagine that there was a second formation she had set up at the entrance of the ancient tablet. This was a true killing formation. As long as Ling Xiao and the others entered the stone tablet, there would be no way out and they would definitely die. At that time, she would be able to get rid of Yizhan, this threat, without any effort. At the same time, it would not be considered as breaking the agreement with Ling Xiao to kill him at the end of the sea. Killing two birds with one stone, why not? In terms of scheming, Ling Xiao, you're still the younger brother after all. There was a trap within a trap. It was absolutely foolproof. To be honest, at this moment, Ao Sun's heart was already filled with regret. Moreover, from what she said, it seemed that she already knew everyone's whereabouts like the back of her hand. However, even with Ao Sun's temperament, He would never imagine that Ziyin was not only scheming against Yijan, but also against Ling Xiao. This young man always made Ziyin feel inexplicably uneasy. In this way, killing him would eliminate all the unknown hidden dangers. No matter what he was scheming, he would not be able to avoid the heavenly alligator ancestral land. Even if he killed Yijan at the entrance of the ancestral land, he would not be able to resist the temptation of the fortune inside. Humans all die from greed. You think you are on the second level, and I am on the first? You don't know that from the moment I want to kill you, you are already a dead man. Old ancestor, let's go. Perhaps we can still catch up with your clan. In Ziyan's eyes, the lightning intent turned into a mystery. There was a faint shadow of lightning that seemed to have broken through the ages. It covered the sky and the sun as it charged towards Ao Sun and Ao Sun. Boom! Chapter 762. Boom! Boom! Tens of thousands of runes suddenly appeared in the Sea Emperor Palace, intertwining and covering the sky. Following that, the sea surged, and layers of Taoist rhymes swept out in all directions. As for Ziyin, she stood with her hands behind her back. Her gaze was calm, and even the enchanting look in her eyes had completely disappeared. The figures of Ao, Sun, and the others had vanished a long time ago, and only pieces of flesh and blood remained on the ground. Master, what happened? At the end of the ancient palace, a graceful figure suddenly appeared. Her face was filled with astonishment. Nothing. Why did you come out? How's your practice of the cultivation method I passed on to you? Ziyin turned her head, and her expression froze for a moment before a smile appeared on her face. Shi'er, you must work hard. That heaven-reaching good fortune is about to appear. In the future, the sea region will be counting on you. Master, aren't you already standing at the peak of the sea region? Tens of thousands of races have submitted, and the sea region is peaceful. Shi'er wanted to say something, but hesitated. Since Ziyin had taken a fancy to her, she had always felt that her master's goal was not simple. Before the Golden Scale clan was destroyed, Shi'er did not know her origins. But now, she felt that there was a conspiracy shrouding her, especially the cultivation technique that her master taught her. It was a kind of evil technique that could forcefully raise her cultivation and activate her bloodline. Although Shi'er did not suspect that Ziyin would harm her, she was inexplicably nervous. Master wants me to fight for that fortune, but why did she teach me such an evil technique? What is she trying to do? I'm very confused. It would be great if young Master Ling Xiao was here. He would definitely give me a lot of pertinent advice, right? Shi'er, you have to know that the current tranquility of the sea region is just an illusion. They're just intimidated by my cultivation. Once I'm old or injured, the Ocean Emperor Palace will face destruction. Ziyin sighed, and there was a rare look of vicissitudes in her eyes. In this world, no one is willing to be under someone forever. Betrayal is only a matter of an instant. Master, you've also seen it. Today, the 9 thearchs of a sea race, who are the vassal races of the Flood Dragon clan, have come together. If I hadn't made preparations in advance, I'm afraid that I would have met with a great calamity. Shi'er, do you really think that I care about the position of the sea monarch? What I care about is the peace of the sea area from beginning to end. Master, I know. You've always thought that I've been too strict with you. But Shi'er, you must know that the blood flowing in your veins is the supreme bloodline of my monster race. This point alone has already determined that you won't live a peaceful life like an ordinary sea race girl. Originally, Ziyin had only come to the sea region to conquer the various races because she wanted to borrow the sea region's power to accomplish what she wanted. After all, she did not have much time left. With that person's means, he would step into the venerable realm sooner or later, and it would be difficult for her to take revenge. Therefore, this might be her only chance. Until more than 10 years ago, when she accidentally met Shi'er, she was instantly shocked by the bloodline flowing in the girl's body. Ziyin really did not expect that there would be such a pure, true dragon bloodline in the barren land of the Shenzhou continent. In these 10 years, Ziyin had flipped through ancient books and searched for great monsters, but only found out that there was only one true dragon in the history of the Shenzhou continent. Thinking of that fortune, Ziyin suddenly had many guesses in her heart. No matter how many god emperors there were, they might not be a match for a venerable realm expert. But if she could also step into that realm, perhaps everything would be easily solved. It was the most important part of her plan. Even killing Ling Xiao was only because she was worried that the former would disrupt her plan and do something bad to Shir. After 300 years of planning, Ziyin would never allow anyone to ruin her grand plan. Master, Shir only wants to stay by your side. Shir's beautiful eyes flickered with a trace of grievance. In the vast Sea Emperor Palace, she had always been the loneliest one. She was like a cage canary. Although she enjoyed the most noble status in the sea region, wasn't it also a kind of imprisonment and restraint? You are still young and do not understand the cruelty of the world. I unified the sea region in order to end the 1,000 years of conquest of the sea region. But in the end, I lost an identity and a foundation. Therefore, there are countless people in the sea region who wish for my death. But Shir, you are different. Your bloodline is supreme. As long as you can obtain that fortune and completely awaken it, all the monsters in the Shenzhou continent will respect you. Ziyin stretched out her hand and gently stroked Shir's cheek. The gentleness in her eyes was as if she was looking at a peerless treasure. Although you do not understand me now, and I have never expected anyone to understand me, one day you will understand how great the things I am doing are. I understand, Master. Shir will work hard in her cultivation and strive to awaken her bloodline as soon as possible to help you obtain that fortune. Shir clenched her teeth. In particular, the loving expression on Ziyin's face made her feel an indescribable sense of guilt. Perhaps she was too childish. Under her master's cold and cruel appearance, there was always a kind heart that cared for the common people. In the end, she turned around and left, leaving Ziyin standing alone in the ruins of the Sea Emperor Palace. But at this moment, the smile on her face had already disappeared. Only endless coldness was left. In the depths of the Death Sea, in front of the ancient tablet, Ling Xiao frowned slightly. His body was surging with lightning intent. At this moment, he seemed to have discovered that the formation in front of him was not as terrifying as he had imagined. In fact, without the help of the formation-breaking talisman, he had discovered a few flaws. Was this reasonable? Given Ziyin's ability, how could she set up such a low-level formation? Of course, it was not that this formation was useless. On the contrary, if Ling Xiao had not seen the ancient formation that Ziyin had used to trap Yi, he would not have doubted it. After all, even if a monster had some talent, it was impossible for them to cultivate to the profound realm like a human formation master. The seal in front of him was indeed terrifying. Even an ordinary 6th or 7th stage divine emperor might not be able to break it easily. If not for Ling Xiao's complete lightning Dao, it would be difficult for him to discover the flaws. However, Ling Xiao felt that something was wrong with this formation. Crack! Suddenly, a crisp cracking sound was heard in front of Ling Xiao. Behind him, a smile finally appeared on Yizhan's face. Young master, you're awesome. This lightning formation was a restriction for the monster race. Especially in the sea region, even God Emperor experts could only avoid the lightning's prowess temporarily. But Lord Ling Xiao could easily break this formation with his divine overlord realm cultivation. What else was there to say? Young master, you're awesome. At this moment, under the guidance of the lightning that Ling Xiao deliberately released, this sea was already surrounded by sea region geniuses. However, due to Yizhan's ferocious power, no one dared to take the initiative to step forward. They all stood in the distance, staring at the changes in the formation above the ancient formation. It's broken. Look, it's broken. When the lightning dissipated, many Sea Clan geniuses' eyes were instantly filled with greed and excitement. Chapter 763. All of a sudden, the Dead Sea began to ripple. The lightning around Ling Xiao dissipated. He stood up and let out a long sigh of relief, looking extremely exhausted. Even his face was inexplicably pale. Seeing this, Yijan's eyes flashed with gratitude. He took out several elixirs from his arms and handed them to Ling Xiao. "Thank you for your hard work, young master. It's all for the people of the sea area." Ling Xiao shook his head, his expression gentle and calm. This scene, in Yijan's eyes, inexplicably carried a sense of righteousness. "Young master, since the array has been broken, shall we go in?" However, looking at Ling Xiao, who stood motionless in place, Yijan suddenly had a trace of doubt in his heart. "No hurry. I have consumed too much spiritual power in my body. Let me rest for a while." Ling Xiao took the initiative to step aside and glanced at the prodigies of the sea area. Finally, it settled on a burly, bald young man with a rough appearance. 8th grade Divine Lord, Great Tao Law, 2,000 Providence points. Your voice is somewhat familiar. As if feeling the coldness in Ling Xiao's eyes, the bald young man frowned and suddenly said in a deep voice, "You are the young master of the Xian Turtle Clan, right?" Ling Xiao smiled indifferently, but he did not hide the murderous intent in his eyes. "You are the one who killed Tai Wu, the young master of the Xian Turtle Clan, Xian, the #1 prodigy of the sea area, dominated his generation with an absolutely terrifying defense." At this moment, countless young men from the sea area gathered around him, all of whom seemed to be led by him. "That's right." Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Xian meaningfully. "Little turtle, you are quite capable. I wonder how many slashes and punches your turtle shell can withstand. Your aura is unstable, so I won't attack you. But when we enter the secret territory, I will crush you with my own hands." Xian smiled coldly, but the moment his voice fell, he felt a chill rising from the soles of his feet. Ling Tian took a step forward and stood in front of Ling Xiao. The sword intent in his eyes almost cut the entire sea curtain into pieces. "Little Tian, there's no need." Ling Xiao stretched out his hand and patted Ling Tian's shoulder lightly. With the latter's battle prowess, it would not be too surprising for him to face off against Xian. However, Xian did have some luck. No matter how small the mosquito was, it was still meat. If he didn't eat, wouldn't people think that Ling Xiao, was arrogant? "Brother, let me do it. He dared to threaten you. Let me chop off his head as an apology." Ling Tian frowned with a calm expression. However, the words that came out of his mouth gave off an extremely cold and ruthless feeling. "How dare you? 2 humans, how dare you act so presumptuously in my sea?" Behind Xian, a prodigy of the sea tribe shouted angrily. However, facing a group of enraged prodigies, Ling Tian did not show a trace of fear. Instead, there was a hint of excitement. "I can't kill a 5th grade divine emperor, but you bunch of deity overlord ants isn't a piece of cake? What happened to Big Brother? When did her temper become so gentle? If it was in the past, anyone who provoked him would only end up in a miserable state. Presumptuous! How dare you speak to the young master like that? You must be tired of living." However, before Ling Tian could speak, Yijan, who was beside him, took a step forward. A divine king's spiritual aura smashed down towards Xian and the others. In just an instant, a prodigy of the sea tribe coughed out blood and fell to the ground. His aura was completely weakened. "Buzz!" Xian's eyes narrowed as he raised his palm. A ray of demonic light suddenly lit up and turned into a black tortoiseshell that blocked above everyone's head. Even so, his figure was still pushed back by Yijan's spiritual aura. As his aura fluctuated, a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. "Human, I will remember you." Xian's face was gloomy, especially when he felt Yijan's strength. His eyes flashed with surprise. "All right, since the ancient monument has appeared, let's go in." Ling Xiao smiled indifferently and took the initiative to retreat to the side, giving the entrance to the ancient monument to everyone. Although Yijan's face had a trace of doubt, He did not ask much in the end. He followed closely behind Ling Xiao and retreated. The young master must have his reasons for doing so. Regarding Ling Xiao's thoughts and character, Yizhan trusted him greatly. Seeing this scene, the prodigies of the Sea tribe no longer hesitated and rushed towards the ancient monument's entrance. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sound of breaking through the sea suddenly resounded. In just a breath's time, dozens of Sea tribe prodigies stepped into the ancient monument and disappeared. Only Xian Xian and the young masters of the other two royal clans, the Emperor Whale clan and the Demon Mane clan, did not move. However, although the cultivation of these two royal young masters was terrifying, they did not have the slightest bit of providence, which really disappointed Ling Xiao. It shouldn't be. In the southern border, there were constant battles, especially in the Sea tribe. They had not stopped for thousands of years. But apart from Shir and Yizhan, the one with the highest providence was actually a tortoise. Was this reasonable? Inexplicably, Ling Xiao suddenly thought of the missing young master of the Flood Dragon clan. Could it be that this young master was a person of great providence? Atavistic bloodline. I hope he can give me some surprises. Boom! Not long after the prodigies of the Sea tribe entered the ancient monument, there was suddenly a deafening buzz. The terrifying thunder power was like the Milky Way, instantly illuminating the entire sea region. Among them, there was even a trace of burnt meat fragrance wafting out, which sent chills down one's spine. F***CK? Suddenly, everyone's eyes were on Ling Xiao. It was no wonder that the human youth had not entered the formation, even though he had broken it. It turned out that this ancient monument had other tricks. Insidious. Despicable. Sure enough, there was no good in the human race. Even Yizhan felt his scalp go numb when he felt the vast thunder power emitted from the monument at this time. With his 9th Grey Divine King realm, if he was caught off guard, he would probably be crushed into pieces by this thunder power, right? Young master. Wise. Sure enough, believing in a young master would lead to a long life. Beep. The chosen one has complete trust in the villain and worships him. He is only one step away from bliss. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. Hearing the notification from the system, Ling Xiao's lips suddenly curled into a smile, but his expression was obviously very surprised. The Sea Emperor's tricks are indeed terrifying. The Sea Emperor? Hearing this, whether it was Xian Xian or the other two young masters, a trace of shock flashed in their eyes. Judging from this young human's words, he did not seem to be aware of the changes. And this array was set up by the Sea Emperor? Everyone present had a deep understanding of this new Sea tribe Emperor's array attainments. No wonder this thunder power was so vast and mysterious. Even if one was an Emperor God, if they entered rashly, they would definitely die, right? Of course, even if the Sea Emperor was scheming, he probably did not expect Ling Xiao's understanding of thunder to be several times more terrifying than his. He did not know about arrays, but the thunder intent in this monument could not escape Ling Xiao's perception. Young master, what should we do? Yizhan's expression turned stern, and he felt helpless. The ancestral land was right in front of them, but they were stopped by an array. Moreover, judging from the power of this array just now, even Lord Ling Xiao would be at his wit's end, right? Sigh, for the Sea tribe's common people, for the young master's grand ambition, I will give it a try even if I have to risk my life. Ling Xiao suddenly sighed softly, and his handsome face emitted a dazzling light. At this moment, the hesitation in the eyes of the Sea tribe's prodigies dissipated. Even Xian Xian's face had a touch of shock. Listening to this young man, he is going to enter the ancient monument and break the array? F***CK. This human was something, wasn't he? Chapter 764. Young Master. How righteous. Yizhan's expression was slightly shocked. He originally thought that Ling Xiao must have seen some clues in the tablet, which was why he didn't enter the tablet in a hurry. Instead, he asked the Sea Clan prodigies to go in and test it out. But at this time, seeing the majestic light emitted from the young master, he couldn't wait to slap himself twice to show his guilt. How can I be so suspicious of the young master? If the young master is afraid of death, he can hide behind others at this time. Why must he force himself to stand out? It turns out that I misunderstood the young master. Zien, you're so vicious. I'm afraid that this woman set up such a trap not to kill others, but to kill me. Did that mean that young Master Ling Xiao had somehow saved his life? Young master, thank you. Yijan suddenly looked at Ling Xiao with a serious expression and bowed deeply. I'm also doing it for the good fortune. Ling Xiao shook his head indifferently. But the more he did so, the more Yijan respected him. A gentleman loves wealth and obtains it in the right way. This sentence was also suitable for the path of immortality. It was obvious that young Master Ling Xiao was the pure-hearted, righteous, and peerless gentleman that everyone spoke of. How could a person like him have any bad intentions? It's ridiculous that Ao Sun and Ao Yi reminded him to be wary of the young master. I think you're just narrow-minded. Blame the young master for killing your disciples. Young master, this is my natal spiritual treasure, the golden Jiao Sea flipping seal. It's a heavenly treasure. I can lend it to you temporarily. I hope it can help you resist the array formation's power. Yijan waved his hand, and a golden ancient seal fell from the sky and landed in front of Ling Xiao. The Tao patterns on it flickered and exuded an immortal charm. There was a faint golden Jiao shadow floating up and down, evolving mysteriously. Oh! Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly, and the corner of his mouth became more playful. Not bad, little seafood. I'm very gratified by your awareness. And all of you, hand over all your defensive spiritual treasures. As if feeling the surprise in Ling Xiao's eyes, Yijan's face turned red, and there was an inexplicable excitement in his heart. Why should we hand over our spiritual treasures to a human? A prodigy from the Sea clan sneered with disdain. If Lord Ling Xiao falls, none of you will be able to enter the ruins. Even if young master breaks the ancient formation, you will not be able to escape death. Yijan looked at the crowd coldly. His god-king aura swept out, instantly causing many sky prides to change their expressions. Humph. Do you really think that you, a divine king, can do as you please? The young master of the Emperor Whale clan was called Jing Luo. He was a handsome young man who was also a grade 8 divine marquis. His golden robe shone brightly. For a young master of a royal family like him, it was impossible for him not to have some life-saving trump cards, especially since this historical site was located in the forbidden land of the Dead Sea. The elders of the clan would definitely bestow great treasures to protect the Tao. Not to mention godly kings, even godly emperors would have to expend some effort to kill them. No. Yijan shook his head slightly, and the corner of his mouth suddenly raised into a cold smile. Based on the fact that the relic behind this ancient monument is the ancestral land of my heavenly alligators. Boom! A demonic shadow suddenly stepped out from behind Yijan. Brilliant golden scales and scarlet eyes, all of them revealed the ferocious barbarism that belonged to the ancient overlord race. Before Jing Luo could react, Yijan took a step forward and appeared in front of him in an instant. Then, he stomped his foot fiercely. Poochie! Even though the young master of the Emperor Whale clan had many tricks up his sleeve, the disparity in their cultivation levels still caused him to vomit blood and fall to the ground instantly. If he had not revealed his true form at the last moment, he would have been completely GG under Yijan's stomp. If you want to enter the relic, take out your life-saving treasure. Otherwise, get lost. Yijan stood in the void and glanced at the crowd coldly. So comfortable. This feeling of acting tough was so satisfying that it was irresistible. 300 years. In the blink of an eye, I haven't acted tough for 300 years. Zien, just you wait. When I integrate with the immortal source and step into the grade 9 divine emperor realm, I will kill you personally. Heavenly alligators, ancestral land. I didn't expect you to be from the heavenly alligator clan. Xian and the other Sea Clan prodigies' expressions changed. Especially when they felt Zhan's demonic aura, they instinctively felt a suppression from their bloodline. The Heavenly Alligator clan was rumored to have been destroyed in a long river of history. Everyone was curious about how Zhan managed to survive. However, his survival did not mean that the Heavenly Alligator clan had survived. Perhaps Zhan was just a fish that had escaped the net. The ancestral land of the Heavenly Alligator clan? Just the thought of it made people's hearts surge. It was said that this clan was bestowed with the immortal source by the ancient god. Swish. This, young master, this is our clan's supreme treasure, the chaos-flowing light mirror. It can withstand an attack from a grade 8 divine emperor. I hope you can break the array and take us into the ancient realm. Young master, I have an earth essence divine talisman here. In the end, many Sea Clan prodigies took out their treasures and handed them to Ling Xiao. I don't have any defensive treasures on me. Because of my defense, I am invincible in the sea. Xian walked to Ling Xiao with a gloomy expression and sneered. However, Ling Xiao shook his head. Young Master Xian, there's no need for that. Xian's expression turned serious. It seems that you are not as arrogant as you said in the voice transmission talisman. In Xian's opinion, Ling Xiao must have regretted killing Taimu. The human race was indeed a bunch of trash. When you get hard, Sai, he softens. The problem is, I haven't even gotten hard yet. I was just about to show you my turtle shell, and you're already taking the initiative to show me your goodwill. Damn. Young Master Xian, you misunderstood. What I meant was that you don't have to take any treasures. You're the biggest treasure here. Ling Xiao smiled gently. However, before Xian's playful expression disappeared, it completely froze. Damn, I am a treasure? What do you mean by that? Young Master Xian, will you go in with me? Ling Xiao took out the treasure in his hand and turned to look at Xian. I heard that your defense is the strongest in the sea. This array should not be a problem, right? This array? Xian opened his mouth slightly and turned to look in the direction of the ancient tablet. Just now, he had felt the fluctuations coming from inside very clearly. Even if the geniuses who entered were not as powerful as him, they were still the top geniuses of the sea. But now, except for the smell of meat, there was no movement inside. Young man, should I thank you for thinking so highly of me? Or should I hate you for deliberately targeting me? Although I'm not the top genius of the Shenzhou state, I'm still the top genius of the sea. If I go in, I will die. You want to go in with me? Are you trying to show off? If you really dare to go in, I will go in with you. What? Young Master Xian, are you afraid? Ling Xiao shook his head helplessly. The top genius of the sea? That's it. Thought you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.